Good evening, my local drones. This is Bio Gundam here, and I'm back again for another video. So today we are doing a Season 2 overview of Boku no Hero. So, to assist me with this task, my good buddy Kaiser Shounen is here. So, Kaiser Shounen, introduce yourself.
All right, what's up, everybody? Glad to be back. Yeah, sure. Hey, everybody. I'm really glad to be back.
Okay, so episode 1 or episode 15 of Season 2, Kaiser Shounen, start.
Okay, then. Well, the beginning of the episode starts off with the news, basically detailing uh, the event that happened at the end of the first season, which is basically when the villains attacked and a whole fight between All Might and Nomu happened. They said that about 72 criminals were arrested, which Jesus fucking Christ, a lot. That's like 20, like that's a lot of resources and people being wasted by Shigaraki during that whole entire thing. And all of them had their asses kicked by a bunch of teenagers. Really?
Total villain material right there.
I know, right? Anyways, let's see. So after that, because of the attack, the school was closed for the day. So all of the faculty, including All Might and freaking Eraserhead and a bunch of other heroes, were talking and trying to compare notes and find any sort of information about the villains that attacked. They said they couldn't, despite all of the people they captured, which is weird, but whatever. And All Might kind of notes the freaking obvious, saying that, "Oh yeah, Tomura Shigaraki, the guy, hands man that attacked. He was basically an immature, psychotic man child, which was kind of obvious from the get go. I don't see why this needed discussing at all, but whatever." Um, so that whole conversation was basically just them comparing notes and saying that this is kind of a serious issue. It was a boring. It was pretty much a basic boring exposition dump, which isn't all that big of a deal. It's not that terrible. There were some visuals like flashbacks coming back to the earlier season, which helped, but it didn't do all that much. So anyway, moving on after that, the next day, uh, Mr. Aizawa, or Racerhead, announced to Class A, where our main characters are, that the tournament arc is starting.
Tournament arc. It's a fucking tournament arc.
Yeah, that tired me. Anyways, yeah, basically they're going to have a sports festival, and he basically details, and sports festivals are a common thing in Japanese culture, so I'm not really all that surprised that they're even having that. Aizawa details that the sports festival is supposed to help the students get some major opportunities for them to be scouted by professional hero agencies, which is actually pretty smart. So, they decide to try to get the students basically try to decide to do their best so that they would be scouted by the better professional hero agencies so that they can have a lot more of experience from those who are much, from the pros of the field, which is actually pretty all right.
Yeah, I would say that there's some, like, just to get right a misconception, like, this whole, like, sports thing is not a tournament arc. Like, honestly, as far as tournament arcs goes, it's not even a fucking tournament. I mean, there is no goal, there is no, like, reward. It's just a bunch of people showing off their powers and they're fighting each other just to sort of showcase each other's strengths. Like, that's not a tournament arc. Now, Yu Yu Hakusho, the Dark Tournament arc, now that was one hell of a tournament arc.
But even aside from that, we're basic. I'm going to spoil this for you guys now, but basically, you wouldn't really. I mean, as far as tournament arcs go, this one is pretty much as basic as everything else in this series. So whatever. Ochako, the main chick who controls gravity and shit. It seems a hell of a lot more excited about this whole thing. which is kind of weird. And it was just another cringy, unfunny comedy scene. After that, we basically get a sort of little bit of backstory moment as to why Uraraka wants to become a hero. It's basically because her parents have a family construction working company, and she was hoping that she can not only use her powers but also her stance as a hero to get them more money so that their business would stay afloat, which is actually pretty sympathetic. My problem is the fact that I'm not saying that they should have given us this backstory right off the bat, but I feel like they should have done a much better job at making Uraraka much more of a compelling character. Not all that compelling from the start, but at least somewhat much more fun to watch. Well, yeah, much more engaging to watch, because all we see of her is that, oh, she's kind of a nice girl and, a bunch of cringy, unfunny scenes. And by the time that we do get this development, this advances her character a bit, but it makes it feel contrived and forced because of it, which is going to be a running theme throughout this entire season. So keep that in mind here, people.
Yeah, like when I was seeing that backstory, I thought I think I like fell asleep through that backstory because I was just so bored and uninterested. It's like
yeah, the thing about this is that here's the difference between character development and character segments. With character development, it's a more of a gradual change. You need to have the character who is worth being invested in, so that right when they do get development that makes them even more compelling, you can say that, okay, yeah, this character was very engaging from the start, and I'm more interested in what they're going to do next and how this event is going to change and make them grow, and see how that goes for them. It feels more natural. It's gradual. And even after the development starts, we can see earlier scenes with them before that with new context, and you get even more ideas as to what hints and little gestures that were made that suggest that this might go this route, and it would make it seem all that more clever and nuanced. But with character segments, they do kind of the opposite. Whatever development they do give a character, it's basically the one that isn't all that worth putting their time in. And by the time they do, it kind of just feels forced way of giving them sympathy.
Yeah. Also, the thing about her motivation to fund her family's construction business, even though it is a selfless goal, she just wants to help her family. It still isn't exactly what being a hero is about. You're a hero when you want to save people, not fund the family business.
I mean, yeah, but I mean, that isn't exactly a problem. She's trying to go about solving her issue the best way possible. I mean, it's kind of stupid how her family didn't say that how her family, when she asked that she could use her power to help the business, they basically said no and that she should follow her own dreams. Like, I get what they were trying to do for their kid, but it's not all that difficult. And if she could use her powers to help out, then it would help grow the business and keep it afloat, so that you won't be stuck out on the street at night. What do you think is going to happen? So I think, relatively speaking, I think what Ochako is doing is relatively heroic. There's nothing really wrong with that. And besides, it's not like she's so close-minded about her goal that she isn't able to understand what being a hero entails, which is kind of another problem I have with her, is that her motivation doesn't really spark all that much ideological conflict, as it were. But anyways, we're kind of stuck on this for way too long, so we may as well just move on. Anyway, after that, speaking of All Might took Deku aside during lunch, and they talked in a room, and they basically were talking about what Deku needs to do in the tournament arc. Now, during this whole scene when they were talking about it, Deku basically tells All Might that there isn't really all that much of a point in him going to the tournament arc in the first place. Number one, if he uses his quirk too much, he's going to get himself or someone else hurt. Number two, he already has All Might, so he already has a through line for some connections to improve his abilities. So there isn't really all that much of a doesn't really make all that much of a difference whether he does go to the tournament or not.
Yeah, exactly. Like, why does he need to whore himself to other pro heroes when he's All Might's favorite and only pupil?
Yeah, and besides, we're gonna find out later that All Might wrote a letter to his master about Deku, anyways. So what was it, like I said, what is even the point of him going to the tournament arc? I know that All Might says that he still needs to go to the tournament arc and in order to like test his abilities, but he doesn't. But the fact of the matter is that All Might has done nothing to give Deku any sort of like advice or tips as to how to control One for All at all, you know? Honestly,
Yeah.
I think Zawa did a better job at doing that, even though he doesn't even have One for All at all, which is weird. That shouldn't be happening.
Yeah, like, I don't think All Might is a really good teacher. Like, I like it that he actually, like, admits that.
I mean, yeah, but admitting it isn't the same as like acknowledging your mistakes and like fixing them. Like you said, this is his number one pupil, and this is the future symbol of peace. Him using his powers, letting Deku use his powers in a potentially dangerous way isn't going to help improve him. It's going to potentially make things worse.
Yeah, and also, like, because, like, Deku is All Might's favorite pupil, like, all Might has to do is recommend Deku to some of his buddies and say, like, hey, can you take this kid under your wing? Like, that's all he has to do. And it's like, yeah, sure.
I mean, that's all he basically did at the end of this, but we'll get to that.
Okay, so episode 15, they sort of finished their All Might and Deku finished their little moment together. There's a little bit of an incident in class where the students from Class AB are scouting out the competition. Bakugo acts like a prick. There's a bit of like trash talking between them. You know, nothing really memorable. So 2 weeks sort of pass. You know, the tournament arc starts. You got Mount Lady, the Tree Dude, and Death Arms. They're like security because of the attack on because of the attack with the students that happened a while back. You know, security has been increased some more, so they have some more pro heroes. You know, walking around the campus, making sure that no one's up to no good.
Here's the thing about that though. I know that they are pros, but why only 3 heroes guarding the place? Like, you know that the whole sports festival is basically public, right? And it's going to be shown all over TV and shit. Everyone knows these kids' faces and names and shit, which honestly would risk the villains coming after their families even more, like I said in the last season.
Yeah, and also, they're also displaying their powers in public, so there's not going to be no surprise. Like, for example, if a villain wants to fight one of the characters, they know what to expect if they've seen them in this fucking tournament arc. So the element of surprise is gone. Like, the thing about, like for example, in JoJo's Bizarre Adventure, like, the characters don't know what their opponent's powers are. And that's what makes the battles fun. It's that element of surprise. Like, you don't know what they can do. Well, if Boku no Hero, like, any villain that does, like, the most basic of research will figure out what their abilities are. Like, for example, you know, Explosion Man, he can blow stuff up. Ice Guy, he's got fire and ice abilities. Uchaka, gravity powers. Okay, so how can I get around that? Like they're just making it, like, it's almost like they're making it easier for the villains to kill these kids before they even, like, become heroes.
Yeah, and which is ironic because this is supposedly supposed to make them advance as heroes, which is fucking weird. But anyway, I guess let's just move on from that. Also,
Shoto has a moment with Deku saying he's going to defeat him. people are sort of like sizing each other up. Midnight, one of the teachers shows up in a dominatrix outfit, which is
yeah, this is a chick who should definitely be around children.
Hey man, she needs to protect their virginities from MILFs and who wants to take their their virginities away or give them sex ed lessons.
Oh yeah, they definitely need that. Like this is their high school, so seriously, why they allowed? And like the thing is, I think they had like.
Okay, so after we see her in this clearly, not provocative outfit, they start the obstacle race. Bakugo pulls another arrogant shit, telling that he's going to be the best, he's going to beat everyone, and suck my dick, and etc. etc. Everyone boos at him and chucks rocks and shit at him for being an arrogant prick. They start the relay race. Everyone's like bunched up in a tight corridor. Ice Dude basically just freezes his way, freezes most of the contestants, and only like a few of the people manage to stay up with the pack. They're confronted by a bunch of like giant robots, and the episode kind of ends there. Like nothing really happened this episode, so get to the next episode.
Right, episode 17. Oh wait, 16.
Yeah.
All right. So during this whole thing, nothing all that much of note happened. So the obstacle course is still going on. There was a next obstacle after the first one, where there were a bunch of robots and shit trying to beat them up and shit. There was a canyon, and they need to find some way to get across it. And right at that time, we meet this chick who named Mei Hatsume, who is basically from the support course in UA. And the support course are basically responsible for making gadgets and weapons for heroes to help their abilities be used properly. Why couldn't Deku sign up for that division in UA? I have no idea.
Yeah, because if he signed up for that division, he could probably get weapons training or learn how to make his own weapons. Like, even if he doesn't have a quirk, he can probably, at least, be better than the average. He could probably be better if he, trained in swordsmanship or gunplay or...
And it's not even just that. He can just, make inventions for other heroes and shit like that, make some money off of that, and become gain enough fame and notoriety in order to, basically help other heroes. And then maybe during that time, he can make his own battle suit and on some Iron Man, Tony Stark type shit and start cleaning house himself as a hero.
Or maybe he could be a sidekick, a really good sidekick for another pro hero. He'll be a Robin to a Superman kind of thing deal where, no, he maybe not be that strong power level wise, but when it comes to clean house, he definitely cleans house. It's just, that would have been more inspiring. The thing about Boku no Hero or Deku's character, it would have been more inspiring if he didn't have any powers. And this is him, showing the world that just because I don't have a quirk does not mean I cannot become a hero. It does not mean that I am weaker or lesser than, you guys who can, destroy buildings and do all this shit.
Yeah, Mei Hatsume's quirk is actually pretty lame. All she can do is basically, she can just see really, really far away. That's all she can do for her quirk. And, if someone like her can get in the support course where she basically has a pretty useless quirk in most cases, why can't Deku if he has none?
Another thing I want to mention about that whole the whole thing is when they're going up to the mines, and this is another example of Deku's quick-witted thinking. Now, what Deku does is that there's a minefield, and so what he does is he grabs one of the pieces of the robot and chucks it on one of the minefields with him on it, to get himself ahead of the pack, and I thought that was a really smart strategy, and just another example of how he is quick-witted.
I don't think that was a smart strategy at all. It was kind of the stupidest out of any of the strategies he made up. He had no way of knowing if that plan would actually work that way in any capacity. Those bombs could have easily just shot him straight up in the air and not even come close to propelling him forward at all.
No, if I remember correctly, he angled it.
I mean, I know he angled it, but even then, I don't think that's not even how close to physics working. I understand that this is a shonen anime, and they kind of they have a penchant putting a middle finger to the law of physics. hell, this show is kind of guilty of characters surviving certain things that should have at least made their hair dirty or something like that. But half of the time, the show tries to deal with certain matters on how it conducts itself and how its setting operates in a realistic way. And the fact that they don't use realistic physics, at least on some capacity, much closer capacity, is kind of jarring to me. So I say that this isn't really a good plan, especially since this plate of of a piece of the robot, it couldn't take the explosions from Bakugo, remember?
Yeah.
So what made him so why didn't that thing break when a bunch of mines were right under it and it exploded?
Nothing. I'm pretty sure nothing else happened this episode, so we'll skip to episodes 17 and 18 because it's basically the same thing. So episode
basically, Deku wins the first part of the tournament because of that dumb plan, because of course he did. Midnight explains that the next event is going to be a cavalry battle. 4 students or 4 or less teams of students, basically like they hold one of the 4th student on top, and they kind of use their quirks in order to steal other people headbands and sashes and shit to get more points of them so that they can move on to the next round. And because Izuku won the first the obstacle race, guess what? He starts out with 10 million points that the other students can steal, which is just another example of the show just putting way too much focus on Deku,
which is kind of annoying since he's supposed to be an underdog. So the whole thing of the cavalry battle, another segment I really like because, you know, people are like trying to work together in teamwork, and there's a few good moments of teamwork and stuff, but overall, like the episodes themselves are just really forgettable. There's nothing really much happening. As far as this like a whole like tournament arc is concerned, I mean, there's more memorable moments like further down the track, but other than this is just really, really fucking boring and standard.
So Deku teams up with Ochako, the Mei Hatsume girl who we talked about earlier, who has some inventions and shit, and Tokoyami, one of the characters from Class A that I actually kind of like. You know, he's basically like Darkwing Duck if he had a stand, and he was kind of an edgelord chuny, and like his jokes are the very few jokes in the entire show that actually got somewhat of a laugh out of me, because he's the only one who has at least some semblance of comedic timing, and it's so ironic how much of a chuny he is that it just kind of makes me laugh every time. Shoto teams up with Sirius Sanic, another forgettable side character in Class A, Denki, who's basically Static Shock, or who I would like to call Static Shook, because every time he uses his power, he kind of gets, you know, he's basically shook. He's dizzy, he can't move, and all that other, and he's just used for a dumb gag. And of course, Momo, who deserves no other introduction. Anyway, so basically Todoroki, you know, Shoto is trying to go after Deku, try to get his 10 million point headband, so that because he wants to surpass him, all that other shit. Bakugo is butting heads with the guy from Class B he was talking shit with, and that's it for the episode for right now. So episode 18. So the match keeps going on. The guy from Class B, Noto Monoma, who Bakugo is butting heads with, it's basically revealed, you know, he's pretty much been goading Bakugo and trying to get in his head and piss him off so that he'll be able to take advantage of him the entire thing, which is actually pretty cool. You know, he's kind of a cocky dickhole, but he's clever and giving him a lot of a challenge, especially because it's revealed that his quirk is basically to copy other quirks. Of course, they're less powerful, but honestly, I wonder why he couldn't have gotten to Class A. Because if he could copy other people's quirks, why couldn't he just touch a couple of at least the nearest people's quirks during the entrance exam and get as much points as possible from that?
Yeah, another thing that's contradictory about the point system. I mean, some of the powers that some of these students have, like some of them are handy in certain situations, which we will discover in a few episodes in the season prior, which like basically this season prior will basically showcase that the whole point system thing is bullshit and you should never take it seriously.
Oh yeah, we'll get to that. Anyways, so the match still keeps going on. Bakugo manages to pull something over Monoma and manage to take all of his points so that he won't be able to move on to the next round, which is whatever. He probably wouldn't be able to survive all that long because he can't really touch anybody to copy their quirk then, so whatever. Deku is trying his best to keep Todoroki from taking his sash, but he still managed to do it, although they still managed to keep themselves within the necessary points in order to move on to the next round. So that whole thing ends. After that match, freaking All Might and the number 2 hero in the show, Endeavor, they decide to talk. And as you expect, Endeavor kind of has a grudge. So episode 19.
Okay, so episode 19, Todoroki and Deku have a moment together. Todoroki asks Deku if All Might is his father, because as we find out that Endeavor is actually Todoroki's dad, and we also find out the concept of quirk marriages, of where people with powerful quirks are trying to marry other people with powerful quirks, so their children will become stronger than both of them combined, which is honestly some sort of like pseudo eugenics kind of bullshit, which honestly is kind of fucked up.
Yeah, and guess what? The show doesn't expand upon this concept of the world in any capacity beyond how it affects, Todoroki and Endeavor's relationship. So we're not gonna practically see anything like this ever again.
Yeah, I actually feel bad for Todoroki because basically he was just like he wasn't born out of love or something like that. He was just like a product, something to be created, something to carry on his father's ambitions. Because let's be honest, Endeavor's kind of a prick.
Yeah, he basically wanted to make his spawn as powerful as possible so that he can one day do what he couldn't, which is surpass All Might. Endeavor is basically All Might's Vegeta to his Goku. They kind of have that relationship going on. Todoroki could kind of get that Deku has a similar quirk to All Might, so there's that.
Yeah,
and
because
keep going.
Yeah, because the thing with like Deku's quirk is it's a quirk that's passed on. Because as far as anyone else knows in this world, like you have to be born with a quirk. So like only very few people know about the secret of Deku's actual quirk that's actually passed on. So I think Todoroki sort of showcases how he's a bit more analytical when it comes to intelligence, because he's like, your powers are very similar to All Might's. Is All Might like your dad? Because you seem to have a really close relationship with All Might.
Yeah, which kind of points out how shitty of a job that they have been doing trying to keep this on the DL.
Yeah, because if I remember correctly, like only very few people sort of know about their relationship together.
Yeah, basically mostly the pro heroes know about this shit.
Yeah, and they ain't gonna be saying shit about it because it's like All Might's the symbol of peace, and I guess some of them have begrudgingly respect for him. So they have a little moment. All Might and Endeavor have more of their shit, just like having trash talk and shit. It's like, oh, my son will pass yours and blah blah blah. Next stage of the tournament arc, where it's basically like a battle arc. Some of the students pussy out and leave, and
one of them was like one of the guys from Class A, who is named Ojiro Mashiro, whose powers basically he has a large tail and he can use that kind of jump high and hit people with. And he basically withdraws because one of the other people who were kind of starting shit with Class A, Shinso, basically used his quirk to mind control him into fucking him up during the cavalry battle. And his pride wouldn't just let him do that. Which, wow, I would have loved to see this guy's pride back in season 1, I would have loved to get into how much of a noble guy he is, but I guess not, so whatever.
Also, why the fuck did he get like to the top hero class if his only ability is that he has a fucking tail?
Yeah, apparently that tail can break robots, I guess, and that's enough for them. So yeah, basically after that what they're going to do is that they're going to have this the remaining students fight each other in a tournament-like fashion. And who's the first person that Deku is going to fight? Oh, the mind control guy who controlled Ojiro. So, there's that.
So much tension I can cut off a knife. I think I might fall asleep.
Oh, yeah. But Deku kind of gets kind of nervous because, of course, he does before the fight, and he only gotten out because of luck, which I actually kind of agree with, and that's not really going to change anytime soon, so why bother? Anyway, let's move on to episode 20.
So, episode 20, if I remember, Deku is trying not to activate Mind Control Dude's ability because, as we find out, like, Mind Control Dude's ability activates when you respond to an insult he gives you. So, I actually really like this Mind Control Dude because it kind of showcases how the hero course is kind of BS, because, like, his power would be the most handiest thing possible if you're dealing with villains that aren't, like, calm and collective. All he has to say is talk shit about them. They reply and instant genjutsu. Why the fuck is this dude not in class A?
Like, let me talk about this for a sec, because this is the thing that pisses me off the most about this show's shitty world building so far. Because, like you said, Shinso's quirk is among the most useful, the best quirks in the entire show. You can basically use him to interrogate any villain. You can make him do whatever you want, find out anything, and they don't even use him where it really even matters. And it's like, it's all because, oh, guess what? His power isn't able to break robots in the entrance exam, which during the fight between him and Deku, Eraserhead, who is one of the announcers, kind of points this out. And like, pointing this shitty world building out doesn't make it better, because they're not doing, in all the years that quirks have been a thing in this world society, none of them thought that maybe having the entrance exam be based on, for the hero course be based on, oh, if these students can destroy robots or not, is freaking stupid. Because what if, there's some really helpful and handy quirks like his, like Shinso's, and they can't break any robots themselves? What are they supposed to do? Oh, well, they basically have to do well in the freaking sports festival, and otherwise they can't get in the hero course at all, which is stupid. Because how are they going to win against students who actually have destructive quirks, or quirks that are at least a bit more physical combat than theirs? It's dumb.
Yeah, also, the whole thing with that is even a few pro heroes in the stands admit that the tests are unfair to people like him. Like, you have your own pro heroes criticizing the tests you have for making pro heroes, and that is the biggest bullshit I have seen in this series so far.
Right, and like, it makes you wonder, how did Eraserhead get in? Because his quirk doesn't allow him to break robots. It just makes him not be, negate other people's quirks. And like, think about it. If he took Shinso under his wing, teach him some martial arts, maybe give him a couple of gadgets, he'd basically be Daredevil with mind control powers. He'd be unstoppable.
Yeah, why couldn't Boku no Hero be about this dude? Like, he's far more compelling. Like, another thing that's interesting about his character is that, like, a lot of people were afraid of him as a child. It's just like, oh, don't mind control me, kind of jokingly, but, people kind of treated him as a villain because of his abilities, and no fault of his own.
Exactly. And, like, it expresses this sort of dichotomy in the setting where, people have this certain idea of how heroes conduct themselves, and like, judging people, like, even in this world, people judge each other because of their differences and stuff like that. And Shinso is like trying his damnedest at trying to do good and be a good person and try to do good things with the gifts that he has, despite what other people say. And
I actually really like that about his character, because he says, like, yeah, my power, if I used it for evil, I could abuse it and fuck out of it, but I'm not, because I'm not a villain. I'm not an power-hungry monster. I want to be a hero, and I'm not going to let anyone stop me.
You know what the worst part about this is that the entrance exam Boku no Hero gets out. There's a better version of it out there, and it's not an anime, but guess what? It's an American Disney movie, Sky High, people. Because basically what they did in Sky High is that the students show off their powers, just show off what their powers can do, and they are separated to hero and sidekick courses. It's that freaking simple, people. You don't need to make this so freaking unnecessarily overcomplicated and potentially shooting your society in the foot. Because what do you think is going to happen when you separate people like this? They're going to make potential villains because they feel like they don't belong in this society, and you're making it even more unfair for them for no goddamn reason.
Yeah, like what would happen if he decided, you know, fuck the hero corps, I'm gonna become a villain? Like, imagine if he joined like Shigaraki and his group. I mean, imagine the amount of chaos and destruction they could cause with just his quirk alone.
Right, he can get one of the pro heroes to basically do whatever he wants, and he would be, again, unstoppable. They can kill them, they can get all this information about everything revolving around the society and the schools and everything, and no one would be able to stop him. Not even All Might, potentially. That's how big of a potential threat that he's going to be. And you decide to just push him away just because he can't break a bunch of robots? I understand that they're trying to make him a compelling and sympathetic character, and they did a good job doing it. The problem is they did too much of a good job doing it, because of this, it shoots the world setting in the foot. And we know that this kid isn't even going to show up. You know, I'm going to spoil something ahead in the story for a little bit, because this is how much this pisses me off, and I don't give a fuck right now. Yeah, guess how many arcs until Shinso makes another appearance after this? Over 10, almost 10 arcs until he appears again in the manga. That is ridiculous. You're basically saying that this kid, who basically has one of the most useful quirks in the entire series, has one of the most compelling backstories and motivations, and you make him less relevant than Buggy the Clown from One Piece. What in the absolute hell?
Okay, enough against the contradiction. So, get back to the fight. How did the fight go?
Oh, the fight was just kind of boring. It was just kind of boring, and it went as well as you would expect it did. Deku basically just bullshit Deus Ex Machinas himself out of the fight when he was mind controlled and breaks his fingers, which is dumb, because before that he had this, when he was being made to walk out of the stage, he sees some of shadows of the past users of One for All, kind of like he's going in the Avatar state or some shit. And after that, he uses his quirk to break his fingers, that he'll be able to have control of himself again. And after that, he just flips over Shinso, and he basically wins the match.
Yeah, basically he goes into like the Matrix and communicates with the holders of One for All, of Heroes Past. Deku, break his control. Don't make him a hero. Make him an ostracized villain. He can kill us all. Yes.
Yeah, and it's like the guy, and we don't know whether Shinso even gets an internship at all. So like potentially he basically did all of this stuff, you know, for nothing, and he basically gets zero experience other than the fact that maybe he shouldn't be such a one-trick pony and work out, and that's it. And then after that, we get another dose of, oh, Deku, you're using your power recklessly and all that other shit. And like Deku talks to All Might about the whole past lives he saw, and like All Might said he never had this experience before, because of course he didn't, because we need to suck Deku's dick even more.
Deku.
And I know that All Might said that technically speaking, that shock, that event wasn't the thing that allowed him to gain enough control to break his fingers. You know, it was just his will. But you could have just taken out that whole Avatar state aspect and just have him break his fingers, so that, you know, that is a pretty smart idea, because if he concentrates on pain, the shock would just wake him up, which is actually a smart idea potentially.
Which is actually also truthful, because if you're like in hypnosis or something like that, like the thing about hypnosis is that you're in trance and you're focusing on one thing. But if you focus on something else, you break your concentration and you're focusing on that other thing. Like, I don't get the whole like Avatar state bullshit. Like, I just think it's just a massive ass pull to make fucking Deku look like a saint, like he's special. It's almost like the universe makes him special. It's like, oh no, you communicate with the spirits, boy. You've got the gift.
Yeah, this is what me in my boy Salty Tootie, if you ever saw his video called Deku-centric narrative, where basically everything that the characters do and say revolve around, some have to somewhat revolve around the protagonist to gain any sort of relevance. And whatever sort of development or actions other characters take that aren't within his orbit, they basically can go eat shit as far as their relevance go. That's what happened to Shinso. And even we find out later on with some of the interactions that other characters within Deku's orbit are going to have, and we already know what's going to happen because all we need to do is how we equate what they're going to do is going to affect Deku and where he's going, his journey is going to take. So it's going to make things even more predictable.
And honestly, that makes the series really fucking boring. Like, honestly, like a good shonen will have a protagonist that is also like a part of the world, but not also like the center stage. Like, for example, Hunter x Hunter. You know, Gon is not the center of this universe. He is just a cog. He is part of the world. And we're seeing what he is doing and what he's involved in. But with like Boku no Hero, it's almost like fucking Deku, like, it's almost like the world revolves around him, literally.
Yeah, there's a balance between, you know, the character being a part of the world and the character taking action within that world and making changes and shit.
Like, for example, Code Geass. You know, Lelouch, he is both a proactive and a reactive protagonist. Dude. People are doing things to him and he reacts. But at the same time, he's also proactive in taking part in this world and changing this world. And even in, say, Code Geass, you know, Lelouch, you know, even though he's being reactive and proactive, you know, he wasn't the center of the world. He was only the center of the world for like 5 episodes. But other than that, you know, he was just another cog, another gear in the machine. And another series I want to talk about, like A Certain Magical Index, did the same thing. You know, main character Toma, you know, he is just a cog in the machine. And the universe, well, at least for most of the books, doesn't exactly revolve around him.
Yeah, I mean, I have my own issues with Lelouch. Hell, I would even argue that he has somewhat of the same problem that Deku does, but not certainly not to the same degree as this, you know, which is one of the few things I can respect about his character. And speaking of the story being predictable, let's move on to the next fight, which is Todoroki versus freaking Sero from Class A, who is basically tape guy. He makes tapes from his freaking elbows, and the fight goes about as well as you think it is. Like, Todoroki kind of goes overboard in the fight because he was irritated from talking to his dad, and he basically makes a glacier out of the guy, which realistically speaking should have probably killed him, maybe.
Yeah, also, if he's like nearly killing his opponents in this tournament arc, that should deduct points, because you're not supposed to kill people.
Exactly.
Which will be immediately contradicted later on, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, this is what I mean about the series kind of breaking physics for no reason, despite trying to be somewhat realistic, but whatever. Episode 21.
We just see a bunch of the students from Class 2A, I mean, you know, 2A versus Class 2B, and some of the people who are in Class 2B actually have quirks that are stronger or more useful than some of the characters from class, you know, from the A class, which honestly is extremely contradictory. I mean, there's one chick that can control plants, and she, like, uses her vines to type this one dude. There's another dude who has, like, the same hardening ability as the other dude, which is, like, why the fuck is he not in A class as well?
Yeah, it's just so freaking weird. Like, Kirishima, the red guy who has a hardening ability and who hangs out with Bakugo for some reason. Yeah, and he has in Tetsu from class B, you know, they have basically the same quirk, and the funny thing is that they were so even that they basically tied. But even then, so I didn't really hate that fight all that much, other than the fact that, well, there wasn't, you know, it was just a manly battle. Yeah, they, you know, just manly tears and all the other shit, which was cool.
Yeah, they're just punching each other to see who would give out first.
Yeah, it was just a freaking slugfest. Kind of like, you know, kind of like what would you see out of freaking Ashita no Joe or something?
Yeah, the funny thing is they actually become really good friends after the slugfest. It's just like they're crying manly tears. It's like, oh, my friend is cool, and basically they're to go see who can out harden the other one. Todoroki uses hardening, getting harder.
Anyway, let's move on to the next fight, which is basically the plant chick from Class B who barely ever makes an appearance ever again, so I won't even bother saying her name. Again, Static Shook, and she basically stomps him because, this Static Shook decided to use all of his power and, make himself even more, make himself vulnerable, all because the chick is cute instead of being smart about the whole thing. It's hard for me to believe that these kids are trying to get internships when they're treating the whole thing like a joke,
Like
And it's
honestly, while watching this tournament arc, I nearly fell asleep most of the time.
Yeah, and after that, Monoma, the copy guy from Class B, decides to taunt Class A a little bit, which is funny in this instance because I guess mostly because of the dialogue and the fact that he's trying to cover his own ass for the fact that he kind of lost, even despite the fact that his quirk is basically the greatest form of flattery, which is some of that comedic irony that this show kind of lacks. But don't get ahead of yourselves, people, because they're going to reuse this joke again and again and again, and it's never going to be funny. So
fuck me.
Yeah,
We should also talk about
this
the fight between Serious Sanic and Gadget Chick.
Oh yeah. Basically that whole thing was a dumb joke too. Because number one, okay, apparently, the students can bring their gadgets into their fights if they ask the teachers about it, which is just freaking stupid because no one told them about this. And number two, doesn't that give the students unreasonable advantages?
Yeah, what the fuck would happen if Deku asked All Might if he could bring a fucking katana and a bunch of pistols with him, with live ammunition?
I mean, that's even implying that Deku would have the balls to do that, but yeah, that
I'm pretty
doesn't
sure he
make
would
it.
get away with it because he's All Might's favorite pupil. And by the way, this whole fucking tournament up to this point, if it's so much of a joke, why are they taking it so seriously? Like they're supposed to be scouted out by pro fucking heroes. If they're not even taking this fucking seriously, how can they take their jobs as heroes seriously? Because as we've established before, heroism is a serious job. You have pros are always risking their lives. You have to risk life and limb to protect people because is what a hero is. And if you can't take that fucking seriously, why should these pro heroes take you seriously? Why should they waste their time interning and mentoring you guys if you're not even taking this whole sports thing seriously?
Exactly. It's just a dumb joke. And speaking of dumb jokes, what basically Hatsume does is that she gives Sirius Sanic a faulty gadget that is supposed to allow him to maneuver himself, but he can't. But because of that, he basically can't even touch Hatsume because of her own gadget, and she spends a couple minutes trying to promote her gadgets to the crowd and shit, and everyone got bored, and she basically gives up the match, which is a little bit funny, but it's also stupid because you basically wrecked your chances for no fucking reason.
Oh, so what a great fucking advertising your products. Your fucking shitty products don't even fucking work.
I mean, they did work. They did work during the match, but the only time where they don't work is later on in season 3, but we're not there yet, so.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while.
Another two people from Class A. This douchey freaking fancy guy named Aoyama, whose power is to basically shoot a laser out of his belly button. Don't worry, it's not as funny as it sounds.
Honestly, that's one of the most cringy powers that I've seen in this fucking entire show. It isn't even funny. That's just fucking cringe.
Yeah, and against this pink chick named Mina Ashido, who basically has the power to shoot acid out of her hands. And for once, somebody used actual freaking strategy during their fights. But the problem is that I don't give a shit about either of these characters, and they gave me no reason to. So why should I give a shit that whether she wins or not? But fuck it. Anyways, the next fight is Tokoyami versus Momo, and Tokoyami basically uses his stand, Dark Shadow, that totally not an edgy quirk or power or whatever. He basically just knocks her out of the out of the stage slightly. So he basically wins the match, and we get a little bit of Momo getting a little frustrated that she let that happen because she didn't have any time to react, which would be a good cause for a character arc if, again, we actually gave a shit about her before then.
Yeah, the problem is there's not much investment in these characters. Like, I don't give a fuck about any of these characters, and that's one of the problem. Like, why should I give a shit?
Yeah, like, there's nothing about her character that was all that engaging or endearing to watch and interact with, because this implies that, like, back in season 1, she was explaining certain things about the first freaking exercise that they did. You know, the one where Izuku and Bakugo fought. And, like, you know, it makes her give off this impression that, okay, she's like the Hermione from Harry Potter of the group. She's the know-it-all. She's the perfect chick. She even got into UA because of recommendations, apparently. Okay, there's got to be some kind of conflict then, and it's going to evolve into some form of a freaking inferiority complex because of this. But the problem is that she barely interacted with anyone else in the class, and almost everyone treats her nicely anyways, which just makes it all the more jarring when she gets this sort of reaction, even though this is the final part of the tournament and she did relatively well throughout. So why is she getting all triggered and shit?
Yeah, that's just really odd. And also the whole thing about the recommendation things, like Todoroki got a recommendation as well. And why couldn't fucking Deku just get a recommendation? Like, skip the whole fucking smashing robot shit and just get a recommendation by fucking All Might. Problem solved.
You know what? That's a pretty good point, actually. You know, he could have just gotten a recommendation to get to a freaking support course and get taught about engineering. You know, that's the thing that he should have been doing for the past 10 months before the series began. He shouldn't have been working out. Well, he probably should be working out, but he should also learn about engineering and shit. Fuck One for All, he could actually make a huge difference by giving inventions that help support heroes in the society as a whole. Make an actual difference, you know? But whatever.
Yeah,
anyway.
More contradictions. So keep going.
Yeah, so after that, basically Kirishima and Tetsu have an arm wrestling match and Kirishima wins. So the next fight is going to be Uraraka versus Bakugo. Wait. Before that for a sec. Before that fight starts, however, Deku, Sirius, and try to talk to Ochako about how she could possibly even have a chance against Bakugo in her fight, because, her quirk isn't very offensive. It doesn't really have all that many offensive capabilities usually. So they try to devise a strategy. And the best strategy, apparently, that Deku could come up with is that, basically all you need to do is just touch Bakugo once and he'll come floating off. And I'm like, Deku, what in the actual fuck? Because this is a stupid-ass plan. Number one, what makes you think that Ochako would even get close enough to Bakugo in order to do that? He can make explosions from his hands. What's stopping him from pummeling her with explosions to the point where she basically leaps off the stand, right? And in another thing, you saw him use his explosions to propel himself in the air last season. In fact, making him weightless is going to give him even more airtime so that he can pummel Ochako in a place where she can't even reach. I thought of this hole in his plan the minute I heard it, and yet Deku couldn't even do the same.
He's not that smart. He's more quick-witted, but
I mean, but the series paints this as like a good idea.
Yeah, I'm gonna touch the dude that can blow himself up. Yeah, I'm gonna it's almost like fucking trying to disarm a terrorist who's got a bomb. He's about to activate the damn fucking thing. Like, get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, it's fucking stupid. Thankfully, Ochako says that she's going to do her own plan, not because it's stupid, but because she wants to do her own thing, which is whatever. Fuck it. That doesn't mean that she is outside of Deku's orbit. And speaking of that, while we move on to the next episode, this is another This is another freaking segment of freaking Deku-centric theory that I kept on talking about. Because we know that Ochako's not going to win. You know, from how this is going to affect Deku's trajectory when it comes to his development, we know she's not going to win. Because what's going to happen is she's going to fight Bakugo, somehow give him a challenge or whatever. She loses. He moves on. Deku and Todoroki are going to fight. He may or may not win that fight, but Todoroki might. But for the sake of improving Deku's character, he's probably going to lose to Todoroki. He's going to fight Bakugo in the final so that Deku can see, you know, his two rivals fighting each other so that he can be more motivated to become the world's greatest hero. And I thought of this the first time I watched it, clear cut. And guess what? That's exactly what happens. That's how predictable this is.
Honestly, Professor Kaiser Shounen, you deserve a doctorate for that report.
Oh yeah, I'm a freaking psychic in addition to being a robot. Apparently, what is this Marvel comic?
Yeah, so episode 22 starts. Gravity Girl and Explosion Man, they start the fight. It goes as predictably as you said it did. She puts up a bit of a fight, but eventually she gets her ass kicked.
Oh yeah, another thing. Like her plan that was supposedly trying to show that she can do better with her plan and try to be more independent is to let Bakugo shoot explosions at her, touch the rubble around that he creates, and then release the rocks that are hovering over the stage and then make them crash on Bakugo. There are a bunch of things that are wrong with this plan. I don't know where to start.
I know where to start. Number one, Bakugo can probably see the rocks. Number two, Bakugo knows what your power is, so he's going to avoid that. Number three, he can just explode those rocks to small pieces so they don't damage him.
Number four, why the hell didn't Bakugo just kept on the pressure and shoved her out of the stands? Number five, why did Uraraka barely look dirty throughout the match, even though she was literally getting a face full of explosions that should have at least caused like some third degree burns, for God's sake. Another thing about the show breaking physics and shit. Okay, that's all about her plan, but the worst part about this fight is that they try to shove this whole make Ochako seem more sympathetic and shit down your throat. But we can't feel sympathetic towards her plight because, number one, her backstory was brought up this season, so you know that's just a ploy to make you get emotionally manipulated into liking her, which instead of like giving her a freaking personality, right? And number two, we know she's not going to win for obvious reasons. Number three, her plan is fucking garbage, as we have explained. And it's like, again, she is at the final part of the tournament. So, of course, she's going to get an internship regardless of how well she does at this point. So it doesn't even matter. And I understand that this does somewhat advance her character because from a small capacity, she does gain Bakugo's respect for how fierce she was going at him. But again, for the reasons I already stated, it's hard to see her deserving of such praise, even from someone like Bakugo.
Yeah, also, I'm still wondering how the fuck she got into the top hero course. I'm still wondering how the fuck that happened as well.
Yeah, I mean, in the beginning, she barfs every time she uses her power, and she gets queasy and stuff, which makes you wonder how she managed to break enough robots in order to destroy them and get into the hero course in the first place. It's just really jarring. Honestly, yeah. half of Class A should have been in Class B, and vice versa when you really think about it.
Yeah, that's another example of why the point system is bullshit. So, the two hardening guys, they have their arm wrestling test, and Endeavor has a moment, Deku has a moment with Endeavor, and, Endeavor's sort of like his son, sort of thinking, he's like, your power is very similar to All Might. Holy fuck.
And he's also trying to talk to him because he's about to fight Todoroki in the next episode, so
Yeah, he's well, my son will surpass you, spawn of all might, or some shit like that.
Well, he didn't explicitly say that, but he did say that my son will surely win. Anyway, and then the next fight, basically the highlight of the whole tournament in general. And this is one of the very few moments in the show that I think that are somewhat brilliant. This is Todoroki.
I agree. I think the fight between Todoroki and Deku was probably the highlight of this because it didn't make me fall asleep.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Now, what have I been complaining about the characters beforehand, before this episode, right?
Deku Fury?
Oh yeah, Deku-centric there. Well, there is still a little bit in this, which is why we know that Todoroki is going to win. Oh, spoiler alert, he wins. But my issue, no, not an issue. The issue I had with most of the characters so far is that they had subtle hints of development shoved in your face in this season instead without the show doing the proper work of endearing you to some of them before they get this development to make it feel more natural. But with Todoroki, I can understand why it didn't give him all that much of an appearance during season 1. Because in general, he's kind of a standoffish guy. So it's obvious that he wouldn't really interact with Deku all that much, or any other character for that matter. So it's understandable, and given his backstory, it's understandable why this would influence him gain even more development, so that he would be able to not only try to he's basically a hero. He does his things his own way, even though it's still what his father wants. He does things his own way because basically he has 2 quirks. He can use ice and he can use fire. But he mainly uses his ice, which is his right side, without using both of them because he hates his dad for obvious reasons. And because that apparently, one moment his mom was just so miserable from all the years of abuse and scorn and all that shit, which we do somewhat see during his flashback, that she basically went crazy one day and just spilled boiling water on Todoroki's face in his left side, which, ouch. And basically after that, she's sent to the clink, right? She's sent to the freaking the freaking nut house. And she never saw Todoroki ever again at this point, which is sad.
Which begs the question: who the fuck was looking after him or raising him?
Endeavor, apparently, which is why he's such a hard ass.
Yeah, of course. Another thing I have a problem with this fight is Deku, is quote unquote recklessly using his powers. First, he's fucking up his fingers to repel, Todoroki's ice attacks. Then he does it again. Then he fucks up his arm again. He keeps on fucking up body parts. More reckless endangerment, which will not matter after this arc because he'll just get healed. Deku has a friendship speech with Todoroki, which apparently, makes Todoroki use his fire powers once. Because apparently, we also find out that if he uses too much of one side, that his body temperature will go down or go way too high, and it will actually kill him.
Yeah, I mean, which. In some essences, I don't have an issue with the friendship speech that Deku gave because, they've been hinting at this conflict throughout the entire season, and it gives them enough time to really think about how they interpret each other's paths and where they're going. And the way it was directed and the dialogue and, how everything was shot and done was excellent, in my opinion. The only problem I have is that, the fight in of itself, aside from the good visual effects when it comes to the shock waves and ices and stuff like that, most of the fight wasn't all that entertaining to watch. But even with that, I feel like this is one of the few instances that the show has some stroke of genius because Deku wants Todoroki to use his full power because he's holding himself back from really truly following his path and trying to use both of the gifts that he has, regardless of how hurt it makes him feel in order to carve a better future for himself. Because at the end of the day, it's his power. It's how he uses it, which is fine, which is great. And I think this whole fight in general is good. The issue I have about this conflict is that I would have liked it better if, like in the first season, they had like another exercise, like another team exercise at school, and like Deku and Todoroki somewhat interact a little bit. Deku might be a little bit nervous, and Todoroki is kind of standoffish and silent and all the other stuff. And as he watches Deku even a little bit more during that time, he comments that, or at least he mentally thinks that, hey, your quirk is kind of similar to All Might, and stuff like that, and doing better foreshadowing for this conflict to happen. Because as much as I can understand why Shoto didn't get much focus in season 1, like I wish the other characters would have. I would have liked it better if he at least had one small instance of that could actually lead to this conflict happening, because it still kind of comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, this conflict just kind of comes out of left field. Like, they just have like a conversation before the fight starts. It's like, oh, by the way, Endeavor's my old man, and are you like, All Might's secret love child or some shit like that? Like, that just kind of came out of left field. And I just kind of feel like the whole friendship speech is a little contrived, because, 15, 16 years of mental scars just go away with a 10-minute friendship speech. Yeah, very realistic.
Yeah, actually, I would have liked it better if, even another moment before this fight happened, where he's Deku tries to talk to Todoroki about what his deal is in regards to how he wants to surpass him and do better than All Might, and about his relationship with his dad, so that he can make somewhat of a comment similar to his friendship speech. And then the fight where he actually does make the speech is a follow-up to that. Because let's be honest, having this speech during a fight where they should be focused on doing what they need to do is kind of unrealistic and stuff like that, because it kind of drags down the pacing of the fight. And we could have had
that thing they always do in every fucking shonen. They talk, then they fight, then they talk some more about how their powers work, or they fucking have some pseudo-intellectual moral discussion about morality and bullshit while they're fighting, which is kind of annoying.
Yeah, and you can do that in small doses, or when you craft perfect situations where that would make sense. But the way they do it here is only subpar at best, to be honest. I would have liked it better if they had just, made at least some effort to put some choreography into the fight, and maybe they might say a couple words and have them and then have their facial expressions and inner monologues say what they do all the work. But overall, I think this is the better fight of the entire season, thematically speaking. And it's one of the only instances where I can actually give the show almost full marks just for how good this moment actually is. But anyways, at the end of the fight, of course, they have their final clash, and then, Deku loses the fight, just as I predicted.
Yeah, he also fucks up his arm, his legs, fingers, which won't matter because he'll get healed after this, despite being chewed out about how reckless he is, and he's got scars now.
Because of course he does. Let's just move on.
Which honestly, I don't think those scars would be a problem, because it would make him look more attractive and intimidating, actually. I think it would actually help him.
Yeah. I mean, well, that mostly works when it comes to when it comes to a person's face, when they have scars on their face or something. I mean, Todoroki is seen as the most handsome boy in class, and he has a freaking Zuko style scar on his face.
Yeah, so it's not like those scars are doing bad for him in the looks department or anything like that. So episode 24.
Oh, by the way, Todoroki is basically discount Zuko. There, I said it.
Jesus fucking Christ. Okay, so episode 24, they have the aftermath of the showdown. Todoroki has a moment with his dad, just saying, I don't need to cough. Main character Deku is taken to Recovery Girl to get his boo-boos, healed away. No consequence at all again.
Yep.
All Might and them have a favor. Serious Sadak the fucking ball dude and Gravity Girl and Froppy come in to say hello, and then eventually starts the beginning rounds of fight. We have Shadow Edgelord dude versus Explosion Man, and we have Serious Sanic versus Todoroki, and I also think that the Hardening dude versus Explosion Man, which ends as predictably as they started.
Exactly. Yeah. Well,
Oh, that's next episode. Like, the only thing that actually ever happened in this episode is we see a hint of the hero killer who battles Serious Sanic's brother and wins.
Yeah. This is some foreshadowing to a certain very pivotal character in the series who we will meet later, so stay tuned for that.
And also showcases how the hero point system is bullshit, and how, Deku could have just been a hero without, all for one, but we'll get to that later. I mean, one for all, but we'll get to that later when we get to it. So,
sure.
So
episode 25.
Yep, 25. The big fight, the big conflict. Explosion Man versus Discount Zuko. Who is gonna win? Tension.
Yeah, who saw this coming, right? Oh, wait, I did. Give me a medal.
A+ for Professor Kaiser Shounen.
Yay! Wait, since I'm the professor, shouldn't I give you grades?
Yeah, but it's my channel, bitch.
Okay, so, freaking Todoroki is just sitting in the waiting room before his fight with Bakugo, trying to think about his fight with Deku and what it meant to him. Him and Bakugo struts in, and Baku kind of just talks shit about what happened, and freaking Bakugo is kind of upset that Todoroki doesn't lack of acknowledgement of his abilities and stuff like that. And he mentions that Deku said the same thing during this fight, and more of them just talk shit about each other, and Bakugo ends up saying that he'll definitely win, and he better bring out his best and everything. So whatever. Anyway, after that, basically the final battle starts. Everything goes all right. They're throwing hands, going back to back, and until at the highest point of the fight, where Bakugo basically uses his special move, which is called the Howitzer Smash or something like that. Which I guess that's German for something. I have no idea. Maybe it's a bomb. Maybe it's like something like Blitzkrieg, where it's like an event, but who cares? At the end of the fight, Todoroki basically gives up the fight, and he lets Bakugo hit him with his attack, and he basically gets knocked out, and Bakugo wins as to Bakugo's dismay, which I kind of like Bakugo's development in this season, which is basically because at the last season, he was afraid that anyone at all would actually be at the same league as him and that he's the best. But he changed from that to someone who actively welcomes challenging opponents that really prove whether he really is the best or not. Which I
think is a good development, because if you're all talk and no bite, then no one's gonna recognize you. They're just gonna say oh, you're all bravado. You can't deliver. You can't back up what you say.
Yeah, exactly. So yeah, basically, he just wins the whole tournament. The award ceremony begins. All Might comes in and hands out the medals. During the whole thing, which is kind of weird, they have Bakugo muzzled in his podium, his first place podium, because he's just ranting and raving about wanting a rematch with Todoroki and everything, which is just kind of weird why they had to do that, in live television. Like, don't anybody think this kid has a problem and he needs counseling?
Yeah, he kind of acts like a sociopathic bully, and that isn't really hero material. That's more villain material. Like you said before, it's good that he's welcoming challenge, but he's just still way too arrogant and way up his own ass. And that's not a good quality to have as a hero.
Yeah. And the teacher should have done a much better job at giving him the idea that, hey, dude, this behavior is just going to hinder your progress and everything. I mean, I get that he's slowly learning that through his encounter with the other characters, and that's fine. The best way that he could change his attitude is with some harsh reality. But I feel like having some of the teachers in UA get involved somewhat will at least show that they at least somewhat give a damn about his actions, and it would feel less like they just kind of don't for no good reason.
Yeah, like the way he acts, that's like major red flags. Like if I was part of a hero college and I was a teacher, like this kid, he would be pinging major red flags. And he's not just like eccentric and the funny or like, kind of, oh, he's just a little odd. Like this is like red flags in the, this guy could be an actual threat to society kind of red flags.
Yeah.
Another thing is that Sirius Sanek learns about his brother's condition and he sort of runs and they have a little moment which I don't give a fuck about because Sirius Sanek's brother is not dying. He's just really hurt.
Yeah, but they said he'll never be a hero again, which is
such a shame.
Yeah. Anyways, and how Stain managed to not kill him at that point, I have no idea. Even though, as we will find out, he is willing to kill other characters. So it doesn't, regardless of how their intentions are, which is just kind of weird to me.
But the thing of Stain is he doesn't kill anyone important, so it doesn't really matter. Like, who gives a shit?
Exactly. Anyways, Deku kind of ponders that, how he's going to make All One for All his own. And basically, the episode ends there.
Okay, so episode 26.
Really said anything about, how can we let this guy join if when he uses his power, he hurts himself? Like, it just doesn't make any sense.
You would think that some people would see his potential, like some pro heroes would see his potential and be like, hey, I should get on this and be a mentor for this kid because his power seems really destructive and he doesn't know how to control it. He could hurt himself and others. You would think that some pro heroes would be willing to jump on that situation and become like a mentor to him. Or in fact, like some of the weaker pro heroes whose quirks aren't exactly like physical, they could go to Deku and say like, hey Deku, I know that you can't really control your power, but how about this? I'll teach you some martial arts and maybe some weapon or some swordsmanship or some gunplay, so you don't always have to hurt yourself when you're on the job.
Yeah, now that you bring that up, like later on in either this episode or the next, freaking Uraraka tries to go to this agency who this guy named this pro hero named Gunhead teaches his subordinates martial arts, so that because she realized that fight with the Bakugo, she was kind of in deep shit because she had very little fighting capability. And holy shit. And it's like, number one, why don't they already teach the class martial arts anyways? That just kind of baffles the shit out of me.
Yeah, I think like Gunhan's just because of that. Like he's teaching these people something actually practical. Like he's teaching them martial arts. He's basically saying to them, "Is like your powers are all great and all, but you may need to learn some martial arts because if you don't know how to fight, you're just going to be a detriment to me and yourselves."
Exactly, which is a pretty practical decision. And I'm just kind of surprised that this wasn't already being taught to the kids at all at this point.
It's almost like martial arts or like learning how to use weapons is like a new concept to these people. Like you would think that these heroes would use everything at their disposal. Like if you've got money, like what's the problem of buying like a few swords or daggers or maybe a pistol or maybe a few like chains or some weapons and stuff? Like what exactly is the problem here?
Yeah, and it's not like they are entirely against using gadgets in tandem with their quirks, because almost every pro hero does that, So it's not like a new thing, and it's been decades since quirks have been introduced in this society. So you would think that they would make this all the more applicable, especially in their educational system. But fuck it, I guess. We've been dredging on this point way too long. After that, Midnight appears, because of course she does, and she is making some very family-friendly remarks towards the students, right?
Yeah.
And she suggests that this is about the time where the class should pick their hero names. We got some pretty dumb ones, like from the naval laser guy saying, "I can't stop twinkling," which is just dumb.
Gay as shit.
The pink girl Mina chooses Alien Queen, which Okay, fuck it, why not? I mean, everybody treats her as the alien queen in dojins, if you know what I'm saying. The frog chick chooses Froppy, and everyone in fanfic.net goes crazy. Kirishima actually has a cool nickname called Red Riot because apparently he is inspired by another pro hero named Crimson Riot, and he he idolizes him. He adopts a lot of the same principles and methodologies that he does. So it's kind of interesting to see another character who actually has another hero as an idol other than All Might and shit, which is weird because I hardly see any of the others in the cast that have idols of their own. But it's kind of cool to see. I just wish that Kirishima was all that worth giving a shit about for this to matter, but hey, it's a nice detail.
And Bakugo picks the most edgy name of them all, King Explosion Murder.
Fucking hell. Which is weird because you would expect Tokoyami to pick the most freaking edgy name, and he comes close. His name is the Jet Black Hero Tsukuyomi, which is actually kind of low key badass if I do say so myself.
I think if I remember correctly, like Tsukuyomi is Japanese for moon or shadow.
The shadow of the moon, the dark side of the moon.
Let me look this up. Tsukiyomi. Like my Japanese isn't that good. Like I'm learning a bit of it, but let me just check what Tsukiyomi means. Okay, Tsukiyomi is basically a reference to the Shinto moon god.
Oh, okay. Well, that's pretty interesting. So yeah, cool name. Momo picks the Yaoyorozu picks a dumb name. The Everything Hero Creati. Like fucking really? Out of all the good, she not only has one of the most impractical and dumb outfits in the whole series, but she also has one of the dumbest hero names. Like the least she could do as far as her costume should go is just like wear pants with like zippers around the thigh area in case she wants to create anything there, and she should have like a jacket with a zipper and maybe like a hole in the back for when she wants to create things there. Like it's not that difficult, but no, the show has addressed this way because of, well, for obvious reasons, right?
Hey man, we need those dojins. Fuck off.
Yeah. But anyway, let's move on. But the big one, well, the episode tries to paint this as a big one, is that two big things. Sirius Sanic thinks about using his brother's hero name, Ingenium, which is kind of weird. I don't know what's the significance behind that name, but whatever. Because he said he allowed him to carry on his name, during that whole hospital scene, the last episode. But instead, Ida kind of feels reluctant about it, and instead he just goes with his first name, which this is a good moment for him, but otherwise this is actually pretty dumb. The big thing is pointless. Yeah. Anyway, the big thing here is that Deku goes up and he picks his hero name. Drum roll, please. And the name he picks is Deku.
Plot twist.
Now, yeah. I mean, granted, I understand the significance behind that. It goes back to what he said during his and Bakugo's fight in season 1, which is that he'll turn, the dumb nickname that he's been giving him since he was a kid, and turn it into something of a hero's name, a name to be proud of. It represents somewhat his growth, while also keeping a lot of the things that made him who he is in the past, there. Which is fine if Deku was a much better character in general, but it's fine. It's a fine moment for what it is.
The thing about Deku is apparently it means great tree in Japanese, I think, from what I can find.
I mean, it explains the haircut.
Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, I think after that, at the end of school day, All Might gets a notification from one of the other heroes, and he said that finally one person submitted a form to want Deku to work with them during this period, which is, again, really dumb because you think that a bunch of heroes would call one of the people who made it to the to the top to the semifinals of the tournament, right? But
Yeah.
fuck it. The person who submitted it, of course, was All Might's teacher, Gran Torino, who we saw in the beginning of this season, looking at the news and reading a note, this letter from All Might talking about Izuku and how he's his disciple and he's chosen one for all, and everything like that. And All Might wants Deku to go to Gran Torino so that he can teach him some things about how he can learn to better control his quirk, which again is freaking stupid because you'd think that All Might of all people would just be able to teach Deku all of this stuff, right? Seeing as he does have one for all and he knows how it works.
Yeah, we can just say that All Might is a really shitty teacher, and the only thing he's good at is recommending Deku better teachers.
Yeah, apparently Gran Torino's a better teacher, Eraserhead's a better teacher, fucking Midnight's a better teacher.
Hey, she's a better teacher because she's a hot MILF, that's all I need to say.
I mean, yeah, which she should definitely be around children, definitely.
Exactly. Pressurable young boys with hormones ablazing and her wearing that family-friendly outfit, nothing will go wrong.
Absolutely nothing.
Exactly.
Officer. Anyways, after that, yeah, Deku says that, yeah, he'll meet Gran Torino like a few days after this, and he'll be taught by him and everything. So after that, school ends. Deku walks home. He catches up with Uraraka, and they both notice that Sirius Sanic left school a bit earlier than they did, and he kind of recalls hearing about Ingenium and his whole situation in the news and how he's been taken out by the hero killer Stain. On the first day of internships, Eraserhead dismisses the students after giving out their costumes. Deku and Uraraka approach Ida before he leaves, and they just mentioned that if there's anything you need, just call us and we'll be there for you. And Ida's all right, and Ida's all like, okay, fine, thanks. But we can still tell that he's gonna be feeling some type of way about this whole entire debacle, and we'll see how he has this sort of vengeful glare, meaning that he's taking upon himself to take revenge against Stain. And after that, Deku goes to the freaking Gran Torino's house, and he kind of finds him presumably laying on the floor in a small pool of blood. And that's where episode 26 ends. So on episode 20.
So episode 27, Deku finds Gran Torino on the floor with blood. It actually turns out it's actually ketchup because I was eating some sausages. Gran Torino gets this costume. Him and Deku start sort of training and having a bit of a clash. He tells Deku that instead of thinking of all for one as one for all is like a special power ability, make it a part of your being, because if you remember correctly, Deku's only had this quirk for a while. It isn't something he naturally had. So
yeah,
he views it more as something he's been given instead of a part of himself.
Right. He doesn't really use his power as if it's like a part of his own body. He doesn't use it in any flexible fashion. The other people in his class can, most notably Bakugo, who can pretty much propel himself in the air using his quirk. But Deku hasn't.
It's because they've had those abilities for years. They've probably trained with them, or at least they instinctively know how to use them because they've had so much practice.
Exactly. Now, why All Might couldn't tell Deku this basic ass information, I have no fucking idea. But anyway, after this, we get a small scene with. So yeah, Deku and Gran Torino still have a little bit of their struggle, and then that's the end of that for now. After that, we cut to another part in Hosu City where Sirius Sanic is chosen to be the intern of the normal hero Manuel's office. No, the guy is literally named Manuel. I have no fucking idea who would pick that fucking name, but fuck it.
Serious
Yeah. So they just walking around, patrolling the streets together pretty casually. He kind of just mulls over a little bit about what happened with his brother and how he's probably going to be able to find the hero killer Stain a lot better in the city where where he's more prominent, where there's a large amount of attacks have been occurring recently.
Yeah, like this city's basically his current hunting grounds, essentially.
Yeah, basically. We cut to elsewhere in the League of Villains headquarters where Shigaraki and Kurogiri meet Stain for the first time, and they discuss how Stain should probably join in their ranks. And Stain, during the talk, he questions Shigaraki's convictions, and he's somewhat disappointed to find out that he's just basically just a fucking thug. He basically does what he wants just for the sake of, killing people and for shits and gigs, and he doesn't take too kindly to that. So they're kind of talking shit to each other a little bit, and Kurogiri, of course, tells him to stand down, and that Shigaraki might learn from experience. We cut back to the scene with Deku and Gran Torino with a little bit more when they have a little bit more of a scuffle. And wait, no.
Main character Deku learns an ability called All for One Full Cowling, which allows him to increase his body power.
Wait, we haven't gotten to that part yet. Anyways, while he's just saying that, while he's in Gran Torino's apartment, he mulls over what Gran Torino has been telling him a little bit, and he's trying to figure out how to make All for One extension of himself rather than just seeing it as like one special move. So somewhere else in Tokyo, Bakugo arrives at the Best Genius Hero Agency, who's basically he's just like, he has this weird jeans costume that covers his face for some reason.
Yeah.
So he said that he isn't very fond of Bakugo because he's kind of a dickhole, and despite being talented enough to make it as his sidekick, he just can't really like him very much. I mean, who would like Bakugo, from their point of view?
I mean, to his point of view, Bakugo is reckless, young, way too arrogant, I'm pretty sure if he had more time, he'd be willing to, beat that into submission because as we've said, Bakugo needs to learn how to accept challenge and not be so arrogant and loudmouth and throwing away just showing off his powers just for the lols.
Yeah. I mean, granted, he did learn to accept challenges and to show off a little less. It's just that he has a shitty attitude. Anyways, apparently the Best Genius is the number 4th hero. He's one of the top 5 heroes in the show, apparently, which is just weird. How he claimed that spot, I will never know, because now that I think about it, they never really specify how the ranking system with heroes even work in this universe.
Hero points, that's all I need to say.
Fucking course he did. Anyways, Genius kind of restrains him with his quirk, which is his ability to use the threads in his clothing or any clothing, and he controls them and he uses them to tie him up. And he basically tells Bakugo that he better prepare because he's gonna make him a good boy. So that's the end of that.
Another scene I really dislike in this whole heroism thing is that 2 of the characters go to work with Mount Lady, and during this sort of epilogue, they cut to a lot of scenes with some of the students working with some of the other pro heroes, and all of them are saying stuff about what it is to be a hero. Mount Lady just says a hero needs to learn how to spend her relaxation time, which is completely contradictory when other people the dude that Serious Sanic is partnering with is on patrol daily. Gun dude is training people in martial arts. using up some of his free time. And Mount Lady is just sitting on her ass doing nothing. And there's another hero that's like doing modeling and showing off her assets, which is totally all about heroism, by the way.
Oh yeah, definitely. Apparently, it's supposed to be trying to make heroes more appealing to the public, because it's understandable that part of heroism is to be not exactly a crowd pleaser, but to some extent it is, as in the sense that you're just making sure that you're a reliable figure to the public, and you can be like a role model to inspire others, and to know that you are a reliable hero and everything. But to be this flashy about it is kind of weird. But then again, I guess this society has been so ingrained with this system that I guess it was bound to happen. Now,
Yeah, no one gives a fuck.
Now whether this chick is motivated by this weird attention that she gives is up to debate, because we learn so little about her, and she barely has any personality besides being kind of a stereotypical like flashy, mature woman.
Giggity giggity.
God damn it. Anyway, we cut to Todoroki, who actually surprisingly chooses his father's agency, which is actually pretty mature for him, because he explains that as much as he hates his dad, he's still the number 2 hero. So there's still a hell of a lot that he can learn from him, which not only shows Todoroki not exactly accepting his father, but understanding that he shouldn't let his baggage with him be at detriment to his own growth as a hero.
Yeah, and even if his father's an asshole, like there's a lot he can probably learn from Endeavor, because like Endeavor's been in the hero biz for a lot longer than he has a lot more experience, and he could probably learn from that, despite his dad being a complete asshole. But
Exactly. Anyway, that night, while Gran Torino, wait a second. Anyway, Deku that night tries to figure out how to So that night after, Deku tries to practice using One for All in his entire body, and tries to scale up some walls, but instead he fails. After he comes back and is exhausted, Gran Torino tells him that apparently All Might, when he got One for All, he knew how to control it from the start, and he didn't even need to receive much combat training. So, which is incredibly weird, because how much sense does that even make?
Maybe his teacher taught. Maybe his mentor taught. Like maybe the person who gave him One for All, All for One, actually taught him before giving it to him. Because remember, he had that little training thing with Deku as well. So
yeah, that's understandable. But even then, he still said that he knew how to use and control One for All from the very start, which is incredibly unrealistic, because that implies that All Might himself was quirkless, right? Just like Deku. And yet he knew to control it, and Deku couldn't, which is baffling, especially seeing as how Deku himself was is pretty pragmatic and smart, and has pretty good intelligence among the main cast. So you think that he would be the one to have a much better grasp of his powers than All Might.
Also, Kaiser Shounen, I forgot to mention this, but you don't have to be quirkless to inherit One for All. Like, for example,
I know you don't have to be quirkless to inherit One for All, but I'm not saying that's the issue. The issue is that despite Deku and All Might being in the same position, All Might immediately knew how to control it, and Deku can't, which is just baffling to me, and there's no explanation for this at all.
Okay, I'll chalk it down to lazy writing. Next point.
Yeah. Anyways, so after that, the next day, Deku and Gran Torino practice again, and they fight. And so, a bit during the scuffle, the episode ends with Deku finally grasping at least a little bit how to use his power in a way that he can transfer it to his whole body. And he calls this ability One for All Full Callan. And that's where the episode ends. So
episode 28, they're still continuing. Deku and Gran Torino are still continuing their training. He still hasn't got full control over Full Cal, but that's fine. They're still training. We have a scene where All Might is talking to the detective about the Nomu and how it's got DNA and multiple quirks, and they're very curious about that, and All Might seems a lot more concerned than the detective does. Now, I think the most important thing about this episode is that Stain and sort of handsman serial killers, back and forth banter starts turning violent. Stain basically like pins them on the ground. Kurogiri realizes like, oh shit, I need to stop them from killing each other. Because and Stain just finds, Handsman serial killer absolutely abhorrent because we may not have mentioned this, but there's not just heroes and villains in this world. There's also another group called vigilantes who are, I guess you could say, quote unquote, anti-heroes. And Kaiser, do you want to dive more into that?
Oh yeah, this is an actually interesting. This is a pretty interesting concept within the show's universe. Because although you have all these heroes who are basically sanctioned by the government, odds are in a huge society like this, there might be some superpower people that might slip through the cracks and use their powers in however means they see fit for a variety of reasons. Some turn to villains, some turn to vigilantes, maybe some turn into gangsters. Who knows? I have no idea, and neither do any of you, but this is still a pretty interesting concept nonetheless. And during this small scuffle, right? Wait a second.
Like, Stain basically tells him that he has no conviction, you have to kill with conviction, and that he respects All Might because despite, Stain killing people, he still has a sense of justice and nobility about him. Like, he isn't just going to kill, innocent people for the lols, like serial killer Handsman. So, of course, they're going to come to blows because Stain's basically an anti-hero. Like, he has noble intentions and goals, but the way he's going about it is just way too villainous.
Yeah. Although he during the scuffle is that Shigaraki says that he wants to kill All Might, which big shocker there. And he hates the fact that he is seen as the symbol of peace, and he wants to crush all the people's hopes. And that in their faith in the system that they already live in. So, and Stain backs off a little bit, and he somewhat agrees that both him and Shigaraki want to destroy the present, the present system that is present. God damn it, how do I say this? They both want to tear down the system.
The status quo, essentially. They don't like the status quo for different reasons.
Yeah, their goals... how they reach their goals are different and their reasons are different, but their intentions are pretty much the same. And they kind of agree to somewhat of a truce, but Stain kind of still doesn't want to join the league, so he gets teleported back to Hosu City.
No, he basically just tells them to fuck off and that he will take care of them later. Like, he does not like them. He views them he basically says, if I remember correctly, says, after I take care of the heroes in the city, I'm going to hunt down those villainous bastards and kick their asses.
Yeah, pretty much. So yeah, after that, he's going back to Hosu City. He's sent back to Hosu City so that he can find some more pro heroes to fight. And he says that he sees them as fake heroes. Now, fake in what? He says that, because of this society, many heroes, well, many, air quotes here, apparently see their hero work as more of a job or a way to get more prestige and gains rather than an honor, and as a true duty to help others. They basically go against the fundamentals of heroism in his eyes. So he sees them as scum that needs to be purged because of that reason.
I don't actually see him as wrong. It's just the problem is that we don't have much characterization on any of the pro heroes. Like the worst we've seen is that a couple of them are kind of assholes.
Yeah, like the only two examples of fake heroes is Endeavor and freaking Mount Lady. Granted, Endeavor is still a minority of a supposed minority because he also does incredibly scummy shit to his family. And Mount Lady, we barely get all that much of what she's all about to the point, and she barely appears much in the show in general to the point where it doesn't really matter what or she is or how she conducts herself. And all the other heroes that we've seen so far in the show take their job pretty damn seriously, and they see it at the very least as a much more much more altruistic in their motives than Stain actually says. So Stain is basically, so it may seem at first that Stain is like whining over an injustice in their society that does not exist until you think a little bit further, because it's not just the pro heroes that have this problem. Stain isn't just after the pro heroes. What he's after is the idea. And what I mean by that, we will see in maybe the next episode or two.
Yeah, we'll dive more into his ideology later. So basically, the fucking serial killer Handsman is really pissed that he didn't get to finish off Stain. So he decides that he's going to release a bunch of Nomu into the city to cause some chaos. There's some chaos in the series. Sirius Sanic is patrolling with Manual. He has a feeling that, Stain is in the area, and Sirius Sanic comes across, Stain fighting a guy named Native who's dressed up in a Native American costume, which is really odd because this is fucking Japan.
Maybe his power is to paint with all the colors of the wind.
That seems racist, but anyway. There's another scene where a fucking Nomu goes onto the fucking train and Gran Turismo fights it, and Deku's just like, oh fuck, hero time, and he's fighting, and the episode ends with Stain reprimanding Sirius Sanic, saying that you're pursuing vengeance and being selfish, and you aren't a true hero. You should be altruistic and self-sacrificing. You shouldn't focus on your revenge and should instead save Native, this dude who I'm about to fucking butcher to shreds. And the episode kind of ends there.
Yeah, now here's where I meant about Stain is against the idea of fake heroism rather than going after fake heroes themselves, fake pro heroes themselves. When I say he's against the idea, I mean that when you consider that he is more so angry at the general stigma that fake heroism is ingrained in this society, including this society's youth. The scale that we have a lot more of a handful of people who actually are trying to or are heroes or trying to be heroes for very, very selfish reasons. So we cut back to heroes in training like Ida. We met a couple characters who are doing it for selfish reasons. Bakugo, who basically has the same freaking goal is Endeavor, as in to be the best hero of them all. We have Mineta. Oh yeah, we haven't mentioned him because he's practically the worst character in the fucking show.
No one gives a fuck.
Yeah. He's basically wants to be a hero so that he could get his dick wet and he can be popular and shit. We can see that probably freaking the copy guy, from Class B, wants to be a hero for pretty selfish reasons, especially seeing as how he has a severe inferiority complex. But even within those and also like Ida, who right now is basically, channeled by his revenge to the point where he doesn't even focus on another life. What Stain is against is heroes following their own selfish desires at the detriments of the people they are supposed to save. And when you consider that, we have a much more handful of examples of fake heroes, professional or not, who are doing so for their own selfish gain, which actually diffuses a lot of the common criticism about Stain's characterization is that, oh, he's getting mad because only a couple heroes in the system are acting dickish and we barely get to see any examples. When you consider he's after the idea and not that specific group of people, it makes sense why he would also try to kill Ida, because why else would he if he's not against the idea, right?
Yeah, like if Ida just came there to save, Native, like say, hey, Hero Killer Stain, stop that, I'm going to save him. I'm pretty sure, like, Stain would have been merciful on them because he says, like, this kid is embodying true heroism. He's risking his life to save another being at the cost of his own, life. And I'm a powerful villain, quote unquote, and I'm pretty sure Stain would have spared him.
Exactly. So when you consider that, it makes him less of a crybaby, right? At least that's how I see it. So let's move on to the next episode, episode 29.
Yes, episode
20. This follows up after the last episode that left off. There are a bunch of Nomu throughout the city. Gran Torino and Endeavor are on the scene, and they are fighting a couple of Nomu. Apparently, him and some of his subordinates are trying to defuse the situation. Gran Torino basically killed one Nomu. Endeavor went to find some others, and while doing that, Deku is just trying to run up the rooftops using his new ability to see what's going on to get a better vantage point.
Which I think is another smart thing of his, because he realizes that there's a lot of chaos in the city, and if he gets up to a high place, he'll have like more lay of the land essentially, and you'll know where to go, which I think is another quick-witted strategy.
Yeah. So while Deku is trying to find everything, he sees a group of pro heroes trying to fight one Nomu and basically getting their asses handed to them. And Manuel, the guy Sirius Sanic was with, just so happens to be there, and he cried out saying that, damn it, why isn't, where did Ida go? What the fuck is he doing? We need him here, and all of that. And upon hearing that, Deku gets an idea saying that he's probably after the hero killer. He deduces he's probably after the hero killer because this is the common, place where Stain would probably be. He's probably gone to like the back alleys, which is basically his playground, so that he can try to get revenge for his brother. So he runs after him, which is actually a pretty smart friggin' deduction on Deku's part. So I'll give him 1 point for that. Watching from a nearby vantage point, Shigaraki and Kurogiri watches as the chaos unfolds. He comments that his master lent him the Nomu, so that he could use them to either kill Stain and cause as much chaos as possible, which is weird because if the goal was to kill Stain, why were the Nomu released in places where Stain wouldn't even be at, right?
I just think he was just doing it for the lols. Like, if Stain died, that was just a bonus. He just wanted to cause destruction for the attention and bring despair.
Well, yeah, when you consider it like that, I guess it does make sense.
We cut to Sirius Sanic versus Hero Killer. Sirius Sanic is getting his fucking ass kicked. No surprises there. He's about to die. Deku gets on the scene after, I think, the 4th attempt or something like that of checking alleys and stuff. Deku gets into the battle. He's kind of getting his ass kicked. It's kind of,
not exactly. He's pretty somewhat even with Stain for the most part, which, okay, it's a prodigy against like a professional, somewhat professional killer, at least compared to him.
They're having a bit of a back and forth, and we actually didn't talk about Stain's quirk, or should we like...
This is where it gets showcased. So basically, his quirk is called blood curdling. His ability is when he takes a sip of someone's blood, right? It basically allows him to stun them for a varying period of time. So once he like licks your blood and shit and consumes it, you're basically stunned and you're fucked. Which is why he carries blades around.
And by the way, that power isn't exactly very offensive, isn't it?
No, not really.
Okay, so how do you think he's kicking these guys' asses who have superpowers?
I think it might be because he actually, for one thing, he doesn't skip leg day apparently, right?
Keep going.
And he does a little bit of cardio, and he's a fucking martial artist. What in the absolute fuck?
Ding, 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 ding. Bonus points for Kaiser Shounen.
Right, if a freaking serial killer can learn all of this crap and can be a competent vigilante to the point where he knows how to take down at least somewhat mid-range pro heroes. In granted, he takes them by surprise most of the time, but he still does a competent job at beating them, and has a quirk that is very dangerous, even as non-destructive as it is. So, which is freaking baffling to me. This is just another case of the society in Boku no Hero just shooting itself in the foot. Because again, we have another non-offensive quirk user who can kick ass and take names through actually having some martial arts training.
I mean, what would have happened if, say, for example, like, I'm not going to spoil it, but what would happen if, say, like, Mind Control Dude, found Stain and saw how powerful he was, even without, like, having a destructive quirk, and said to Stain, like, hey, Stain, could you teach me martial arts and swordsmanship? And Stain's like, yeah, sure. Like, what the fuck would happen if Mind Control Dude learned how to do that?
Yo, he'd be like freaking samurai, Silver Samurai from the X-Men, but with mind control powers. He'd be fucking unstoppable.
Yeah, okay, so the fight's sort of going on. Now, who also shows up on the scene to assist Deku and Sirius Sanic? Fire and Ice Dude, because Deku during the battle actually sent him a message to tell him their location. And Fire and Ice Dude sort of realizes that, Deku, wouldn't send this unless it was important, so he rushes to the location against Endeavor's orders.
Yeah, and he told him where he was somewhat going, but Endeavor went his own way so that he can so that he can clean house and take care of the Nomu and shit. So now it's pretty much a 2-on-1 with Deku and Todoroki trying to protect Sirius Sanic, but Sirius Sanic is just yelling at them and saying that, hey, this is my fight, you guys shouldn't fucking be here, what the fuck are you doing, and all that. And another one thing about the scuffle between Deku and Stain a little bit, we know that throughout the series Deku's quirk is pretty destructive, right? One flick of his finger and he can basically blast air pressure, right? So, like, he uses a 5% Detroit smash on Stain, not once, but also twice in the head, right? Like square in the jaw and one at the top of his freaking noggin. So, like 5%. Now it's calculated. Someone calculated once. I don't remember where, but somewhere, that the amount of speed and force required for Deku to blast out air pressure as he does would almost be at like the speed of sound or light or something, right? And 5% of so Deku basically takes 5% of that and smacks Jane. He gives him a 1-2 square in the freaking noggin, and Stain just bounces back from that, no problem. How the fuck does that even work? See, this is another case of the physics in Boku no Hero kind of being wonky. Because realistically speaking, Stain should have been knocked out.
Or at least have his skull crushed.
Oh, yeah.
Do you want to go to episode 30?
Yeah, sure. Let's go to episode 30.
Okay, episode 30.
During the fight, Tenya kind of gets up, and he finds the strength and the will to fight a little bit more, and he understands that what Stain said was kind of right, and that he should be fighting for the right reasons, but no matter what, he's going to do everything it takes to stop him. Yeah, he activated his special move, which allows him to give a short burst of speed, kicks half his Stain sword off, and smacks him against a wall, They work together. They do a team attack, wombo combo, and they manage to knock Stain the fuck out. So yeah, overall, this was a really, really cool fight. It actually gave Ida some good development. We got a little bit of some intrigue as to Stain as a character. Oh, also, I forgot to mention it, but of course, since Deku was worrying about Ida and trying to protect him and Native, and shows a bit more pragmatism when it comes to the situation. Stain sees him as a true hero, so of course he would want to spare him. Or he says he is reluctant to do any harm to him. Which, okay, like, I understand what they are trying to do here. They're trying to add a little bit of a parallel between Deku and Stain, and that they have somewhat the same beliefs in that justice should prevail when it comes to heroism. But the problem is that it just makes Deku look even more like a freaking Mary Sue Messiah, you know?
Which is minus 5 points for his character for me.
I mean, well, it's not really minus 5 points for Stain's character because it's consistent with his characterization. The problem is with Deku, because he, again, if he didn't have almost everything handed to him, and he didn't, in the plot, didn't bend to his will so much, this would have been a pretty cool moment, you know? You know how it is in other shonen where the main character fights a somewhat honorable dude and they gain some respect as a result of that. You know, this could have been something like that here, and it kind of works. But the problem is that Deku gets way too much attention as is, so you don't give a damn.
It's the Deku centric theory in effect again.
Pretty much. Trademark, do not steal. I came up with it. Neener, 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 can't touch my wiener. They try, they tie up Stain. They go after, they try to judge the situation when it came to like our three heroes. They try to discuss what happened and that, everything was reckless and they could have gotten hurt and everything. Gran Torino shows up. They try to report that Stain is taken care of, but a flying Nomu who appeared earlier showed up and tried to like take Deku away. But Stain somehow, some freaking how, regained consciousness and not only like was fast enough to unbind the ropes and cut off the ropes. He managed to get to the freaking flying Nomu flying away and kill it and release Deku.
By the way, without any physical enhancing quirks, by the way. Trademark.
Oh, yeah. Also, while basically being pummeled by three prodigies, the stamina on this guy is just freaking unreal. Absolutely. This is just another case of the physics just being out of whack in this series, despite it trying to be realistic. Also, Gran Torino should have been able to catch up to him. Just saying, he has his quirk allows him to basically boost himself up so that he wouldn't really need to,
I think it was just another moment to sort of showcase that Stain at the end of it all, like, still has honor and he's a hero at heart.
Yeah, and it's like after that, he basically makes this big ass speech where he says that he should not be killed and he'll keep striving towards his goal because the only true hero, the only one who can truly take care of him, and take him out and has the privilege of doing so is All Might, which also gives again another added parallel between Deku and Stain, in which they have appreciation for the same hero and they have somewhat the same ideology, but they go about it a different way. And like Stain's conviction towards his goal was so startling and so overpowering that it literally shook all of the people he was telling this to, including our heroes, including Endeavor of all people. It shook all of them to their core, which kind of suggests that they might take what he says to heart somewhat, right? But we'll see that later.
Shall we go to episode 31 because I want to go on a fucking huge rant.
Oh yeah, go ahead. Go
Okay, so episode 31, they sort of report on the aftermath of the city. Deku, Sirius Sanic, and Fire Night Student are in the hospital. All Might and sort of Gran Trino are sort of like chewing them out, saying they were reckless, they could have been hurt, yada yada yada. And the police chief shows up. He reprimands them because guess what? They didn't have a hero license.
Oh my fucking god!
That is the most fucking retarded concept I've ever heard in this fucking show. Apparently, he reprimands them for the illegal use of their powers, and apparently the credit for capturing Stain will go to Endeavor because he doesn't want to ruin their careers or some shit. But that's just a fucking hero's license. What the fuck? I mean, imagine this situation. Okay, your wife is getting raped. A hero comes past. You say to the hero, "Hey, help me! My wife is getting raped." And you know what the hero says? He says like, "I'm sorry, sir. My hero license expired." I wouldn't want to break the law, despite the fact being a hero is helping people, and your wife and kids and you is getting raped. But I don't want to break the law. I'm not going to do anything because my hero license expired.
Right. And like by the time he calls for help and help arrives, what happens? Oh, the lady got her throat slit and the villain got away. So what the fuck then, right? And
Yeah,
it's like it's so freaking retarded because the dog detective, whatever, freaking God, something Smokey the crime dog looking ass. He said that friggin' that the what they were doing equated to breaking the rules and like using lethal force in order to kill that could potentially kill someone in like equating their actions to those of the potentially to the villains when they break the rules, which is so freaking stupid. What they were doing was that they were trying to save someone's goddamn life. And the common belief in the show's universe is that, heroism is about doing things for the sake of saving other people, And like not only did Ida, Todoroki, and Deku beat Stain, but they didn't kill the dude, and they managed to save a life as a result of their actions. And
I
all
don't
of
know what
them
the
got
fuck this detective is like complaining about. They captured the fucking hero killer, which honestly I'm very disappointed that they captured him because like I think would have been a really cool thing, and we can sort of have this as like a fan fiction canon, is that let's just say that mind control dude was following Deku and he was watching the events and as say, as like Stain gets like carted off away, he uses his mind control powers to free Stain and says to Stain, he says like, "Hey, I saw you what you're doing. Could you please be my teacher or mentor?" Because the Hero Academy is just not cutting it for me.
Yeah, like
That would have been a great fucking development, but no, it's just fucking dog, fucking Smokey the crime dog. You didn't have a hero license, so fuck you. I mean, what happens if fucking Smokey the crime dog's getting shanked right there? He's unable to defend himself. Like Deku and the fucking other dudes can say like, "I'm sorry, we can't help you. Our hero license expired, bitch."
Right. It's just so goddamn retarded. Like, I understand that it is for the purpose of making sure that people don't use their powers irresponsibly before they are proven to be able to. But number one, they should have gotten their freaking license from the goddamn jump, especially the hero course, right? Number two, again, they were not motivated by any selfish, well, at least Deku and Todoroki weren't motivated by any they didn't have selfish intentions in order to do what they did to Stain. They wanted to stop him from killing someone,
Yeah.
And they try to make it seem like that like they are doing something that is so incomprehensible to others around them when it absolutely shouldn't be. It makes them try to seem like they are the special or some shit like that.
And
When they're
honestly, like that, like honestly, like these are like he basically said like, but I won't like arrest you guys for it because I don't want to tarnish your reputations for your career starting early. Well, thank you so much, Mr. McGruff, the crime dog. Like, who gives a fuck what you think? You're just a fucking police officer, and like I understand how Deku and the others were getting chewed out for being reckless and stuff because maybe they shouldn't be so reckless. Maybe they should have waited for backup. But at the same time, if they just did nothing, Native would have died. Sirius Sanic could have died. Like fuck hero licenses in the law. You know, they're gonna have to do, if they want to be heroes, sometimes they're gonna have to do what's right, and if that includes breaking the law, so fucking be it. And McGruff, the crime dog, should not be fucking reprimanding them for trying to use their powers responsibly and trying to save a fucking life. Like, reckless, yes. A bit dangerous, yes. And should they be reprimanded for that? Yes. But they should not be fucking reprimanded for trying to be selfless and trying to be true heroes. And McGruff, the crime dog, can go fucking stuff it up his ass.
Yeah, he can sniff some chocolate for all I care.
The second thing that sort of happens is we sort of get a documentary on Stain about his ideology and crap, and how people are concerned that it will inspire some people, which it doesn't, because half the people that he inspires just joins the League of Villains and causes chaos for the lols. Except a dude called Tabby, who looks like a fucking half-shrunken mummy that can shoot out blue flames.
Yeah, Dobby, I think his name's pronounced.
Yeah, Dobby. Sorry, I mispronounced him, but
And guess what? This show has a fucking yandere.
My brain says no, but my dick says yes.
Yeah, meet Toga, everybody, who is just this insane chick who, guess what, also does not reflect Stain's ideology in any significant capacity, which kind of beats the point of, like, recruiting more people through Stain in the first fucking place. Like, honestly, why couldn't they just bring these guys in earlier on in the series without any of this unnecessary shit?
Hey, how about this for a fucking idea? Like, they try and find out, like, those guys try and find out where Stain is, and they basically try and break him out and ask Stain, hey, we sympathize with your ideology, can you please train us, and can we be your proteges? And then Stain could be, like, a recurring, like, bad anti-hero. Like, wouldn't that be fucking awesome? And then we could have more about the vigilantes and the anti-hero kind of society, which we should dive more into. Because guess what? Those dudes do heroism without a hero's license. Woo!
I know, right? It's like
Such a rebel.
It's like they actually see their gifts as, like, responsibilities or something. But fuck it, I guess.
Man, look at Spider-Man. You mean, if you ever heard of Spider-Man, you know, if great power becomes great responsibility. He doesn't need a fucking hero's license to prove that shit. He does it by action.
Yeah. I mean, granted, I understand the idea is that, like, the whole thing about that is that, you know, Stain is trying to do the right thing, but doing it for the wrong reasons. But what I would have liked is that we could have gotten, like you said, we could have gotten a little bit more in depth about how this system kind of operates, you know, and, like, we could have got, maybe it would have helped if we got a couple more examples of, like, pro heroes being pro heroes for selfish and dickish reasons, right?
Yeah. So
and it would have, yeah, and after that, freaking Deku, Todoroki, and Ida talk it out and say that they should, you know, work with each other, and, like, you know, say that their scars are like a reminder of how inexperienced they are and how they still have a long way to go.
Which I think is a good humbling moment, but they should also realize that, you know, what they did was reckless, yes, and they could have died, but this is valuable experience, and I think they should take this to heart that, you know, there are people out there that can hit hard or harder than them, and they're not just actually, I think it would have been a really good development is if Bakugo fought Stain.
Yeah, well, somewhat, yeah, but then again, he already understands there are people bigger and badder than him, and, like, he's already humbled by that fact because of Deku and somewhat by Todoroki. So I don't think this could have been a good way of driving that home even further. But honestly, there isn't much need to, so it's fine.
Okay, so, you know, Stain, you know, ends in a fucking whimper. He's probably never going to come back again, which is severely disappointing because I actually like his design.
Yeah. After that whole debacle, Gran Torino and All Might, that, you know, they talk about how Stain's appearance might influence other villains, but they said that he'll be able to rise against them, and that All Might is kind of surprised that the one who gave him the scar on his stomach, his big nemesis, All for One, has more than likely have returned, because the Nomu have like the DNA of multiple people and quirks inside of them. And the only person possible that could even come close to doing that and would actively use their power for evil was this guy All for One, who is basically a really, really big deal.
Okay.
And so, they should be careful about that. A couple days later after that, there's this whole viral video about Stain's backstory, which honestly, the fact that they have this dumb little freaking exposition dump basically to tell us all about Stain's backstory is even more proof that they're probably not going to bring him back for a while, which really, really, really disappoints me. We could have gotten Stain as like a leader of a third party organization within the show, and we could have gotten more appearance from him, and we could have slowly learned.
Or heck, he could have teamed up with Deku and say hey Deku, there's a villain, let's team up and fight him because you're a true hero. I mean, that would have been fucking awesome. And then they sort of have their back and forth about justice, and they have an ideological debate. That would have been fucking deep. That would have been fucking nuanced. But nah, he's just gonna be sticked in jail. He's gonna rot in jail, and he's just gonna stay there forever, even though he's probably one of the better characters of the fucking show.
Exactly. He's the only one so far that actually has some deep reasons for what he wants to do, and what he wants to do makes sense given the setting and the consequences, the realistic consequences of having this kind of society in the real world. So it makes sense. And his characterization is pretty goddamn consistent. And I know I don't really talk about this a lot, but the dialogue for Stain isn't as bad as some people might think it is. I do feel like the dub in general kind of helps make the freaking dialogue in the show general by a substantial degree, and they definitely do a good job with Stain.
Yeah, in the Japanese sub, he doesn't sound like he's insane. He sounds very rational, and he's
right.
So did you cut out again?
No, I don't think so. I thought you cut it. Before that, there's another issue with Stain that I have, and that is that he said during his fight with our heroes that he only beat freaking Ida's brother because he was a weak hero, meaning that he hates heroes that are weaker and are not able to defend themselves, which is actually kind of counterproductive and dumb given his motivation. Because, I'm going to fight fake heroes and grow strong enough to stop them and keep the peace. But he's also going to get super strong so that no one can touch him, which is just kind of dumb in his part. It's just gonna make growing newer real heroes all the harder because of that when you really think about it. He should have tried to spare Ida's brother, or might not have crippled him, but wounded him enough so that he wouldn't chase after him. But whatever.
So episode 32, we just kind of see what the other people are doing, in their internships. Nothing really that memorable or important. It's just more crap and bullshit that I think we already covered before. So this episode is completely skippable if you actually give a shit. Do you want anything to add?
Sure, I guess. Elsewhere, we have this cringy scene with Best Genius and Bakugo patrolling around the city. Bakugo has this dumb haircut. He tries to teach him that Bakugo should let go of his pride and maybe have a better attitude. But of course, Genius isn't even doing it the right way. He's kind of he's spitting some knowledge at him, but he's not doing it in an organic way that would actually change him, which is why Bakugo does not change all that much as a result of his internship, which is a pretty big shame. We get some more freaking scenes with the other people from Class A with their internships, but they don't matter. The main focus of this episode apparently focuses on the frog chick, which, I was totally asking for that. We just left off of this big freaking, this big arc that like introduced a lot of interesting concepts and nuance to the series, and then we cut to some filler that doesn't even matter. I'm not even going to like detail this episode, for real, because that's just how pointless it all is. Apparently Froppy chose to go to this Navy hero and work for him for the week, which makes sense given her abilities, and she just does stuff with them. There's no real point to this episode at all, other than the pad time. She doesn't even, and like there's a little bit of cool fight scenes, but all there are just a couple of cringy jokes. And Froppy doesn't even seem like she learned anything as a result of it all. And like we don't even get any insight as to what her reasons are for wanting to be a hero anyways. Like why, And out of all the characters to focus on, after this whole big event, you focus on the one that has one of the least amount of personality. Granted, I like Froppy in this show because her scenes are one of the few in this entire fucking series that are actually funny because she's deadpan and shit. But honestly, having an entire episode focused on her and nothing of nuance or substance being touched upon is just so god awful, and it's just wasted potential. And this goes back to what I have been saying, like a lot of Class A, a lot of the characters in general don't have very freaking engaging personalities. You don't get engaged as to who they are, so that when they have development later, it just comes out of nowhere, and it's incredibly cringy as a result. All you remember these characters for is like portions of the show that waste your fucking time, and just these dumb, unfunny, and unclever jokes that no one ever truly laughs at.
Yeah, and even for fucking cooldown episodes, it's boring as fuck. Like, I don't give a shit, and I want to care. Like, I don't want to be that uncaring asshole, but I can't care about this show. And it's just so fucking boring. Like this episode.
There's no way you could. There's no reason to. And by the way, there are probably some people who are going to be saying like this, that it's boring, but that's subjective. No, people, that isn't subjective. This is an actual objective fault with the show. The fact is, you need to make that character engaging so that when they do stuff like this, that you at least, if you're not going to advance their character, at least give them good dialogue. But they don't have good dialogue in that episode. It's just the usual cringy or subpar stuff we've been seeing throughout the show. So it's basically pointless.
Okay, let's talk about a few shows that do really do cooldown moments. For example, in Parasite or Tokyo Ghoul, those cooldown moments, when things aren't all about like death and gore, are actually meaningful and impactful because there's decent dialogue and I'm actually engaged. Like Parasite and Tokyo Ghoul, they have really good cooldown moments. Some of them are actually kind of heartwarming. And it's funny, I'm actually engaged because I actually give a shit. Like with this episode, I don't care in the fucking slightest. And if people like this, then like whatever you want. I don't give a fuck. But it's just so dreadfully boring. It's so boring. I think I might go to sleep.
Yeah, freaking Cowboy Bebop, one of my favorite shows of all time, is basically episodic in of itself. But guess what? They accompany a lot of the situations that our main characters encounter. Through excellent dialogue and the way they interact with the characters. These one-off characters that they see. But every little bit that we see of them, we learn more and more about what makes them who they are and how they respond to certain situations. And as a result of that, you're really engaged as to what exactly happened. And you're really engaged as to who these characters are, regardless of whether their episodes are even all that focused on them or not. It's really done well. It's one of the best examples of like shows that are episodic and like is more about a personality driven show rather than a show driven by a plot, and it works. Now, I'm not saying that all shows need to be like Cowboy Bebop. You can make shows that are focused on the plot. They focus on the plot and everything, and also have some cooldown moments that don't necessarily have to advance the characters, but depending on how good the dialogue is, it's still going to be engaging as well as entertaining. But they don't do that here, and that's the issue.
Okay, so episode 33, start.
All right. So, after that whole event, Izuku is about to leave Gran Torino. You know, he's just saying Gran Torino was kind of giving him some rough words of advice after the whole Stain incident, and Izuku and him are about to part ways. Izuku asks why Gran Torino doesn't really become a pro hero despite having a lot of experience and being pretty strong for his age. He says that it's because that he wasn't really all that interested in it and that he only wanted to go as far as being able to use his quirk freely, which fair enough. He has the power to like jet himself around anywhere he wishes. So, and he does a good job.
He wouldn't want to break the law because of the hero license.
Oh yeah. What would happen if he was just zipping around the city and he couldn't stop a child from getting his throat slit just because he didn't have a hero's license, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So, he asked for Deku's name. He says his real name, Izuku, and he's all like, "That's your slave name, boy. What is your real name?" He says his hero name is Deku. And like with that, they part ways. So back after that, we get back to the UA classroom. Everybody's talking to each other about their internships and all that other shit. Some cringy, unfunny dialogue happens, so I'm not gonna even mention it here. The tail guy whose English voice actor is the guy who voiced Tien from DBZ mentions what would happen if Stain were to attack UA like they did in the last season. And Static Shook says that Stain is kind of cool, and Deku just says basically shut the fuck up, you don't know what you're talking about. And it's like Serious Sonic says, I mean, it does make sense why people would look at Stain as pretty cool, but at the end of the day, he's still a criminal. But it's like the reason why I don't like this conversation in this classroom is just that this could have been a nice chance to get some different perspectives and seeing varying reactions to the whole event, involving Stain, and this could have been a good showcase for especially Izuku, maybe muddling through some of the reasons why Stain is the way he is, or at least there are some signs of him thinking about it, maybe not fundamentally outright changing his ideology, but taking it under some consideration would be nice. But of course, we didn't get that, despite this being the outcome of those events.
What can we have? Good writing? Depth? Nah, we can't have that.
Yeah, of course not. After that, of course, there's this little training session that they're going to have, which is basically kind of an obstacle course, like a capture the flag type situation. Deku showcases his full cowling by basically Spider-Manning up a bunch of pipes and structures and shit, which was actually pretty cool. Everyone reacts to it, Bakugo especially, because he says, this dude is copying my swag. I'm the only one who could do that. He's just frustrated because he's getting better. Until, of course, Izuku fucks up and loses his footing, which is whatever, because this is a tensionless, battle. Well, not even a battle. This is just a tensionless training session that barely teaches them anything. After that, some more cringy, unfunny jokes happen. And then after that, Deku and All Might talk in a room, and they finally get to talk about the origins of One for All and the big bad that's eventually going to show up, All for One. So basically, the backstory of it is that right back when quirks were just starting to be a thing, right? well, whatever nuclear explosion or fucked up shit happened that mutated everybody to give them superpowers. I know that's not what happens, but bear with me. Anyway, what happens is that there was one guy whose power is to basically take other people's quirks and adds them to his own. And this dude became basically the biggest bad who has ever lived because of it, you know. And his name and his power is called All for One. You know, in using his power, he has created basically this big evil organization, which is whose purpose is to basically take over the world. Supposedly, I guess it's not really explained what he actually wants, but I'm guessing that it's power and ruling and everything, so fuck it. Anyway, he had a brother and he was quirkless, and he gave him one for all, which accumulates power over time, just to compensate for it. And so the brother was all like, "Yo, I'm gonna stop you because you're doing bad shit." And then like, you know, they fight, but you know, he couldn't defeat him, allegedly. So the brother actually had the power to pass down quirks to other people. And so that's how the legacy of One for All began. And All Might managed to beat All for One back in his heyday. But apparently All for One is of course still alive, in that he basically tells Deku that, hey, you know, you need to buck up, and because all the recent attacks that have been going on, All for One is more than likely behind the scenes because of the Nomu, right? You know, only someone like him can give other people a multitude of quirks at once, so you need to be prepared for it.
I know,
And
and he
for the
did this
most
all without a hero's license.
Yeah. It's like, I mean, as far as like exposition goes, this isn't all that bad. And it does have the nice parallel that even All Might points out, that even justice comes from a foundation of evil, because One for All was basically created by All for One, and it's inevitably going to be his undoing. So I like that nice touch.
Yeah, I like it as well. Like, I like this idea of, you know, people passing on the torch. It's kind of like similar to like the matrix of leadership from Transformers, you know? Like when an Autobot leader dies, they pass it on to the next dude, and then they pass it on to the next dude, and you know, like, you know, this accumulation of wisdom, and it's the same thing with One for All. It's the accumulation of power.
Yeah. Except when Optimus keeps getting revived again and again and again, but we're not here about that. Anyway, the only thing I have an issue about regarding this whole scene is that in the beginning of the conversation, it kind of came from Deku asking about if, since Stain, like, you know, slurped some of his blood, will he gain One for All? And All Might was like, nah, that won't happen until he like accepts. Deku actually accepts him as like the next person to hold that power. And while that is a good justification, the real issue is the wasted opportunity to like expand upon how Stain's, you know, where Stain's ideology and frame of mind came from, and what can be done about the hero system. It's like Deku could have asked these very understandable questions given his position. Like, I understand that he simply just wants to be a really good hero, but this sort of scenario should have made him a bit more conscious that there are other people who have different viewpoints, and
Or
that
at
maybe
least, or at least made him a bit more nuanced. Like, for example, in like Fate Stay Night, like in the Unlimited Blade Works route, like the main character Shiro, he still wants to become a hero of justice, but but the thing is that he has more nuance behind his ideal. Deku doesn't. He's not like more nuanced by this experience, or wised up by this experience of Stain, and that's sort of like a problem.
how does Shiro have more nuance behind his ideology?
He knows he
because
can't just recklessly like save everyone, and he can't. He has to save what he can, and not just recklessly, selfishly endanger himself to save others, but just do what he can.
you're talking about the light novel, I mean the visual novel, right? Because he does that a lot in the anime.
He does that in Unlimited Blade Works. That was
Yeah,
the.
okay.
We'll discuss that later. It's fine.
I mean, yeah, that's an entirely different subject, but I get exactly what you mean. It's just that uh I'm not saying that anything major should happen to like uh Deku's perception of heroes in a society that he lives in. It's just that this could have been a good opportunity to fog up his rose tinted glasses, you know, as opposed to like scratching them and uh make them rusted right out of the gate. Just sort of this slow progression of him slowly understanding these things that could have
Yeah.
made him and the world itself a lot more nuanced. But
Yeah.
anyway, after that, we cut to no wait, before that, we're back to the homeroom class. Aizawa tells the class that starting very soon, they are going to they're going to do the end of terms test. The mid I guess it's called the midterm exam, basically. And that everybody should be prepared for that. And whoever passes the test gets to go to a training camp with the rest of the class. And whoever doesn't pass, fail, and don't get any further training. So, after that, um, elsewhere, we basically talk between Shigaraki and All for One, who is of course behind everything, about here, Stain and his reaction to what happened in during that event. He says that this will more than likely spur some more people to come and join the League of Villains, and that all might bear hold on to his precious peace while he still can, and that's where the episode ends.
Okay. So episode 40, 34 starts. There's this scene about live television about these two heroes, asking should they be, wearing skimpy costumes during hero work, which is totally
Oh
what being
yeah,
a hero is about.
yeah, Midnight and Mount Lady. And it's like it's like the weirdest thing about that is right is that it's not just about Midnight like dressing like a thought. She practically acts like a thought. Like she does all these freaking poses and these facial expressions that are just like really really fucking sexual in nature to in front of a bunch of the freaking teenagers and shit, for practically no reason. I understand, like, you gotta get into the style, I guess, but a little, she could stand to like at least wear a different uniform, or hell, wear a costume that wasn't so freaking explicit.
Or revealing. Yeah, so
Yeah.
after that they just more stuff about class, they about taking tests and stuff, Serious Sanic, tells Static Shook that he should study. He's like panicking and stuff, and there's just more unfunny school stuff. All the students get like assembled for like this new thing with the new test where they have to fight all the teachers. And Deku and Explosion Man get paired up. Ooh, drama.
Oh yeah.
And then Red Rocket and the guy with the yellow it's Ijiro, I think his name is, the one with the yellow costume. They fight the
Oh
concrete dude and get completely curve stomped, and the episode pretty much ends.
yeah. They basically get curb stomped because they kept on punching the walls. And like I understand that these guys are simple, but they can't be this fucking retarded. But apparently they were. So fuck it. They're background characters, so who gives a shit, right? Next episode 35. So first part of the episode is the portion of the test between everyone's favorite everyone's favorite wait a second. Everyone's favorite cock sleeve Froppy and Tokoyami, their practical exam against the hero Ectoplasm, who can basically he basically made shadow clones, all right? And oh yeah, I think we forgot to explain the test. The test is that they basically have to fight the teachers, and they have to either put cups on them, or they have to reach a certain finish line behind them. So yeah, they're basically the villains. The teachers are holding back, of course, because why wouldn't they? Anyway, Froppy and Tokuyami. While this test is going on and the other teachers are watching them, what irks me, right, is that they literally said, that that freaking Froppy, right? They basically say that, oh yeah, her personality allows her to easily get along and team up with almost anyone in the class. And it's like, why? Okay, we could probably see that without any of you people telling us. How about that, huh? This is
Yeah.
another instance of the show just trying to compensate for the fact that the interactions between the other characters is so bland that they would have to hold our hand and tell us that they are good friends or that they interact with each other easily instead of actively showing it through dialogue and interactions.
Like, we could probably see that ourselves.
Exactly. Also, they're pretty much pointing out that Suyu has a such a bland personality that you can basically put her in any situation. Granted, you can do this type of character correctly. Kino from Kino's Journey is the best example of a self-insert character because she isn't just emotionless. She actually has some good witty dialogue with Hermes, and that the show somewhat revolves around her interacting with the locations and people. It's kind of like an even more focused Cowboy Bebop without a overarching plot behind it, And they could have done that with Suyu, just have her, because again, her jokes are some of the only funny ones in the entire show, which is somewhat forgivable. But like this, that other episode that focused on her, it barely gives her any sort of character development or some nice interactions that actually mean something. So this comes off as just the show just basically holding your hand for no goddamn reason, other than just to compensate for them fucking up.
Yeah, that's the tell of a really good show, that they have to hold your hand.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, just if you want to just set like if you make a character who is basically Kermit the Frog's the love child of Kermit the Frog and some anime chick, you can at least admit it without doing any of this bullshit. Anyway,
Okay.
after freaking Sirius Sanic and Tail Shinhan, that's what I'm gonna call him. You can't stop me.
Do whatever you want.
He's up against this other teacher called Power Loader. They basically win. Oh wait, yeah. Suyu and Fumikage win their exam too, because of course they do. Sirius Sanic wins, and he does show that he's even more motivated to become a good hero than he is before. But honestly, I don't see this as anything different than what he's done before. So it's almost as if, you could just take out the stain art and his character would be completely the same, right? I mean, I understand that characters don't necessarily have to go through, like, they can go through changes and grow stronger and hold their ideologies that they hold at the beginning as a sign of, they are a bit more mature and refined. But there is no indication that, again, he has changed all that much since that whole thing happened. So, whatever.
It's almost like it
Um,
never happened.
yeah. So anyway, after that, of course, Todoroki and Yaoyorozu, apparently everyone's favorite ship, I guess, despite them barely interacting at all, get paired up for their next test, and they are up against Racerhead. And so, this was an okay exchange. This does give Yaoyorozu some character development, but honestly, it feels as if it still came out of nowhere because this implies that she has some sort of inferiority complex. And other than that small moment during the semifinals of the tournament, the point where she did practically a excellent job up to that point and still managed to get an internship. Like other than that moment, we never see her get any indication that she is somewhat self-conscious about herself, or that she has this sort of haughty aura about her, except for that like one portion episode in like the earlier episodes in season 1, which barely gives any of the others in the class any sort of conflict between them. Like if her know-it-all attitude, if she actually had a know-it-all attitude and they had kept up with it, this could have provided some conflict between herself and the other characters. She would have learned to be less like that, and she would have had like the opinions of her classmates and the people around her mean a lot to her, and this grows into an inferiority complex. And then this exam would be a through line towards that development. But the problem is that doesn't happen. This comes off as is like I said, character segments instead of actual character development. This isn't gradual. It's just set at different points. There's a difference between that. And like this still comes right the fuck out of nowhere, and we're pretty much never going to get any sort of major development like this ever again. So they do end up winning against Eraserhead, so yay. And then finally we get this cringy scene with freaking Todoroki. No, not Todoroki, but Alaka and the naval laser guy up against 13 from season 1, the black hole dude. And the naval laser guy just brings up, hey, do you like Deku? And it's like, nigga, why the fuck are you bringing this up in a test, in which you would be in the danger of failing and not being able to train with the others? Why are you? It's the same thing with the freaking tournament arc. Everyone's treating it like a goddamn joke. And then after that, freaking Uraraka like slips, but then she uses her skills that she did learn from her internship in order to like topple 13 and basically put the cuffs on him, which is somewhat of a nice moment because she's actually utilizing her
That was in
skills.
episode 36, but keep going.
Yeah, to utilize the skills that she learned, but even then, it was still dumb and cringy as fuck. So yeah, I'm sorry, but go ahead with episode 36.
Okay, so another thing that happens with episode 6, so after we have, Gravity Girl and Twerker stop, Hero 13, we have that dude that looks like The Rock and the Airjack Girl. They defeat Recovery Girl, or I forget who they're fighting, and I don't really care.
No, they were fighting the wait, you're talking about the Stag Shook and the pink chick, right? Yeah, wait, you're talking about after that. But yeah, they were fighting too. They were up against the principal of the school who is basically like a dog or a bear or what.
He's basically a furry.
He looks like Brian Griffin, all right? That's what I'm gonna call him, Principal Brian Griffin. And it's like, he's basically, his quirk is he has a really high intelligence. That's literally what his quirk is, in that he can predict the chain reactions of the stuff that he destroys. So he's using this forklift or whatever inside this whole construction site to fuck our heroes up, and they don't end up passing the test. So but who really cares, right?
Yeah, there's not much tension.
Yeah, and they're kind of nothing characters anyway. Like they're just dumb. They're just gags. So who really cares if they pass or not, right?
Yeah.
After that, the rock guy, the guy who looks like a cavity creep, who is basically a background character, and the ox courtiers chick fights. Oh my god, one of the most annoying characters in the show, Present Mike, who can basically make big sound waves, which can you tell because he's super loud and obnoxious. And they basically had this dumb shit where the cavity creep apparently, they're trying to give him like small character development by having him being like self-conscious and not speaking up all that much and being kind of a coward and a pussy. And like by not even like a few minutes later, he basically overcomes that. And it's like, who the fuck gives a shit about this cavity creep looking dude and his insecurities? We barely see anything of him the entire show other than just being background decoration.
Yeah, and in fact, like half the time I forgot he even existed, so he's just irrelevant.
Exactly. Like this is the whole fairy tale effect where, the themes of the show are about friendship and teamwork and camaraderie, but only like 10 people at most actually matter. Like what kind of hypocritical shit is that?
It's called bad writing.
No, it's called lazy writing.
Okay.
This show doesn't put enough effort for it to be bad most of the time anyways. But anyways, basically the cavity creep's quirk is that he's basically like Aquaman, but with all animals. He can just talk to any animals and control them. And he kind of just throws bugs at President Mike, which I guess scares him enough that he just gives up and they pass the test. But
I'm still wondering why he's actually in Class A instead of Class B.
I have no idea. Like, what freaking animals managed to help him topple a freaking robot? Like, did he call the rats and they just bite off the wiring, the internal wiring or some shit? I don't know. I mean, probably. This would have been nice if we got to see any of it, but fuck it.
What about Airjack Girl? Like, what the hell did she do?
I forget. I mean, what she basically does is just like she encourages him to like keep going and not give up.
No, in the hero test. Like, why is she also in Class A as well?
I mean, then again, her power is to basically by using her aux cord ears, she can emit sound waves, and strong enough waves can break stuff. So I'm guessing that she used that against the robot. But honestly, wouldn't she still have to get, somewhat close to her target? But then she can stretch the cords. So, but still, I hardly believe that she could do that any faster than freaking Tetsu from Class B or the big hand chick from Class B, But whatever. Fuck it. Anyway, next test. We get Invisible Chick and freaking Ashura, who against the gun hero, Snipe, and you would think that they would be at a severe disadvantage seeing as how he's using guns. But then again, there is a chick that has invisibility, so they could easily get past him.
All she has to do is run around naked, essentially.
Yeah, which is weird because, like, there was this small moment where the teacher accidentally touches her, and, like, they have this dumb moment where he gets embarrassed and shit, and it's like, really? I mean, I understand, like, potentially that could be funny, but the way the show does it, it's just comedic. Its comedic timing is just played out way too much like other anime. It isn't done in a clever way. So it just comes off as cringy in general.
It's like, oh, she's invisible. Oh no,
Yeah. The next match is freaking the tape guy and fucking Great Boy. Now up against Midnight, of freaking course. Now all you are wondering, why haven't you been talking about Great Boy? Said no one ever. And that's a very good question. It's because he's practically one of the worst characters in the fucking show. All he is just a freaking he is an unfunny gag. He's basically Master Roshi, but even more horny because he's a teenager. And like he could have been the lovable jerk of Class A that you would kind of low key root for, and that's what other people's perception of him are. But honestly, a lot of his jokes aren't funny at all. Like, even when the irony of it is that he always gets shit faced every time he tries to do some pervy ass shit, which, mind you, edges on straight up freaking sexual harassment at certain points. Even when he gets shit faced, the class treats him as a minor annoyance. And like when you have this freaking this obnoxious eggplant looking dude that looks like he came out of a freaking Nickelodeon Nick Jr. show, right? And doing all this pervy shit to all the girls in the class, you'd think that they would get eventually really, really annoyed with him, but no, they just treat him as a minor annoyance and nothing else. Granted, he's always lonely and shit, but it's practically doesn't play all that much of a factor. Anyway, their match happens. Midnight's quirk is that she basically rips part of her clothing, and then she emits pheromones from her body, making people pass out. Yeah, I'm not even joking. So even the tape
Acts like a
guy,
fart, and her superpowers is that of a fart. That's just amazing. Amazing writing right there.
I know. Tape guy bites the dust. We get a little bit of another fake character development moment with freaking Great Boy of all people, who basically wants to be a hero because he basically wants to become a hero because he wants street cred, he wants to get his dick wet basically.
At least
And
he's honest.
yeah, at least he's honest. And honestly, it would be pretty funny if he was actually, a funny character, but he isn't.
He's
So,
not like a lovable pervert, say like Issei. I mean, at least with Issei, he's funny. I mean, some of the things he does is funny. You know, it's just so over the top that you can't not help like him. And also, at least Issei like has a likable personality, and he's got some cool aspects about him. But Great Boy doesn't. He's just the meme.
exactly. Like he could have been like an Usopp character, but a bit more pervy, but they didn't do that at all. So fuck it. His test is over. Of course, he somehow manages to win through some strategy, which I will give him credit for, but honestly, I give less of a shit at this point. Anyway, after that, Gravity Chick tells Deku that he should probably prepare for his test with Bakugo up against All Might of all people. And that they should probably work up a strategy or something. But of course, they're not going to have any of that. So, anyways, after Great Boy wins, they're about to challenge All Might, and that's the end of episode 36.
Okay, so episode 33, Deku and Explosion Man, they get ready to challenge All Might. And also, All Might is doing this at a handicap. He's wearing weighted clothing to slow him down.
Right, a handicap. Gotcha.
A handicap. And basically, him and Deku and Explosion Man try to work together. Explosion Man is being an asshole as usual. Deku's trying to help. All Might just completely decimates them. He gut punches like Explosion Man like right through the chest, almost like Dragon Ball Z.
And he doesn't get his ribs destroyed after that.
I think he was also coughing up blood and stuff as well. Like he got he got gut punched really hard.
Yeah, it's like honestly, this goes back to what I said during the Deku and Stain exchange. It's like 5% of a punch that could literally create tornadoes would still practically kill a man. And I don't give a shit about how many restraints you have on your quirk. That punch looked like it hit absurdly hard.
Yeah, and he also beats the crap out of Deku as well. Like he pins him with these iron bars, and they try and work together. And All Might's kind of impressed that they're actually now working together, but he still kicks their asses because he's like outclasses them in almost every single aspect.
Deku and Bakugo briefly retreat. After Bakugo stops passing out and everything, Deku tries to formulate a plan, and they have a little bit of a spat, in which they can't really get along, but they still need to improve and get over each other at least this once in order to pass the goddamn test. And so, after that, they actually make up a pretty cool strategy that All Might didn't expect. And that's that Deku briefly uses one of Bakugo's gauntlets the same way Bakugo used on him back in season 1, which is actually pretty clever because apparently, Bakugo's sweat acts as like gasoline for his explosions. And with that contained within the gauntlet, he can basically just shoot it out. So, that's a pretty clever use of his power. Another clever use of his power is that Bakugo basically uses his explosion like the solar flare and blinds All Might briefly, which is really actually pretty impressive, even though that I'm not sure if that is actually how explosions work, but fuck it. After that, Bakugo gets really fucked up. Deku punches All Might briefly and tries to save him, despite Bakugo telling him to go for the goal and forget about him. And after that, he grabs Bakugo. They head towards the goal, and they basically pass the exam. And so after that, Recovery Girl heals Deku and Bakugo, of course, and berating All Might for hitting them too hard, which, honestly, at this point, why should we even fucking care? Like, again, despite All Might being able to, like, basically destroy buildings with his punches, and Bakugo's ribs being destroyed a million times over, like on some Hakuto no Ken shit, they're still going to be fine. So who the fuck cares?
Yeah, they have Recovery Girl to heal them up, and it's not like he's continuously coughing up blood or he's like wounded. I mean, it's almost like half these characters have like extreme density as well. I mean, some of these people take punches that would have killed an ordinary man.
Yeah, the stamina feats in this show is kind of dumb. I know the shonen are commonly like, they commonly have this issue, but it isn't certain factors at least play into how they are able to do that. Like in other shows, there might be some sort of key energy or spiritual power that allows them to shield their body parts and shit.
Or that makes them a lot more tougher than the average person.
Yeah, but there isn't anything like that in Boku no Hero, so...
Unless it's a quirk.
But Bakugo only has one quirk.
Oh no, if only he could get another quirk.
I know, it's weird, right? But anyways, although there is a possibility of him having two quirks, because, like, as if Endeavor is proof of anything, people can breed and gain the quirks of both of their parents, which why that never gets touched upon ever again, I will never know, but fuck it.
Okay, so after they get chewed out, we meet Toga and Darby. They're going to the League of Villains.
Right.
And serial killer Handsman doesn't really like them, and they're just like, oh yeah, we're here because Stain, even though we do not embody the ideals that he has, we're just here to blow stuff up for the lols. And the episode ends, and we go to episode 28. Do you want to take over?
Yeah, sure. Let's see. After that whole exchange between Shigaraki and Dagi and Toga, they tell him to fuck off, and he walks away because he's kind of pissed off that everybody is talking about Stain. Stain's the hot shit right now, and Kurogiri tells him that maybe there's some things he can learn about this whole event, and so Shigaraki fucks off somewhere to do whatever. Wait a second. Oh yeah, we cut back to the classroom, right? And apparently, like always, Aizawa was trolling the whole time about the students failing, not being able to go to the training camp, which honestly we should always be expecting at this point. Like, I get that the idea is that he should be pushing the students in order to pass, because the more the higher the risk, the more motivated they are in order to do better. But the problem is that when you do it so much, it kind of gets repetitive.
And it loses impact, and they expect it. Like, they know, they'll try less because they know that you're probably joking, or this is not actually, real.
Yeah, it's like, there are basically no consequences. And, it wouldn't make sense for him to fail them anyways. Because in light of the recent events that have been happening in UA, in the whole city recently, they're going to need these kids to step up to the plate. So there's no way in hell they're going to fail them and lose opportunity for more, hands on deck, right?
Yep.
So after that, they tell them they're going to be prepared for for the class to go to the training camp. After that, they go to the mall or a shopping district or wherever this is. I guess it's a mall. They go there. Deku and Uraraka had like an awkward moment, I guess, because of what the laser guy said in episode before last about her liking Deku or some shit, which
twerking dude should mind his own business.
Yeah, and how could he tell if he never interacted with any of the class at all?
He's psychic, that's his second quirk. He's got 2 quirks.
Oh yeah, we got freaking Professor Xavier up in this business. Anyways, after that, Deku gets separated from the group. He minds his own business until freaking Shigaraki just pops out of nowhere and basically grabs Izuku by the throat and wants to have a chat with him.
I'm gonna hang out with Deku. I'm pissed off. I'm gonna hang out with Deku.
Yeah, it's like, this is proof that they know who Deku is and they acknowledge him as a threat. So he could just kill him anytime he wants to right now. And seeing it, and I read a little bit ahead of the manga, and Deku practically doesn't fit in his whole, master plan, as it were. Unless they had some kind of Batman Joker dynamic, but that never occurs at all. And, they're talking because Shigaraki wants to understand, why is everybody so crazy about Stain? And, Deku tells him straight up that people like Stain and they're buying they're buying merchandise from stores, apparently. They're buying stores from they're based on a massive criminal, I guess, which I'm not sure if that's legal or not, but whatever. They're doing all that shit because, at the very least, Stain has a vision. He has an ideal. He has a motive. There's a method behind all the madness that he is causing. And, Shigaraki, he presumably doesn't stand for anything. And it's like, this is the first time Deku was actually muddling through Stain's ideology, at least to some degree. But of course, this only makes him self-aware about Stain without any putting any thought into how where his ideals came from and why he is up against the system, and that if maybe he could change it, or maybe him thinking that there's some things that should be changed. Maybe that not he's going to change them, but it should be changed. Maybe he should talk to All Might about these things. Who the fuck knows? We'll never know.
And also Handsman kind of has this pseudo-intellectual discussion of how, laws only exist because people assume that people have morals and stuff like that. And also, if he stands for nothing, then why is he being a villain? He could just do whatever the hell he wants. Instead of just being a villain, he could just be like some random hermit just living in the streets or something like that, just doing whatever he wants. It's like, today I'm going to save someone. Next minute later, I'm going to go kill someone. Next minute, I'm going to save someone again. Next minute, I'm going to rob this house. Next minute, I'm going to, rob a convenience store. If he stands for nothing, then he can do whatever he wants.
Yeah. I mean, granted, the show kind of acknowledges that he's basically, a freaking try-hard teenager who thinks he has the whole system in the world figured out, but he doesn't like it all. And that would be fine, but if in this case, it does pull through because he does get shit-faced by this conversation, and he realizes that, damn, I need to have a motive, and I need to have more conviction in my actions and shit. And which is something that he had learned when he was talking to Stain anyways. So what is even the point of talking to Deku about it? But fuck it, I guess.
Handsman could have been that sort of to use the D&D analogy, he could have been that chaotic neutral, leaning on chaotic evil kind of character. He does what he wants. And every now and then, he'll be less of a dick, but, he still does evil things. But he's not truly like evil. He's just like, I disintegrated someone. Who cares? Do you think that would be better for his character?
You see, the difference between Shigaraki and the Joker from The Dark Knight, yes, I'm making a lot of references because that's basically what they're trying to do with his character. Joker does, he wants chaos for the sake of it, and he does so by hurting the conventional ideas of morality and justice and law that, the Batman somewhat symbolizes. That, in sense that, he gains, and he has this sort of relationship in which he appreciates the Batman, in the sense that no matter what he does, he always gets the last laugh, because if Batman kills the Joker, he wins, because he made the Batman step over the line that he has set for himself, despite being a vigilante and being in the perfect position of doing so. And if he doesn't, then he still wins, because he gains the satisfaction that Batman doesn't come off his high horse and finish the job, so he can pull on some more chaotic shit. And in a sense, they are trying to do that with Shigaraki. But the problem is that Shigaraki says all this pseudo-philosophical BS, and all the stuff he does isn't as somewhat calculated or as freaking tactically inclined as whatever the Joker does.
And also the thing of like Batman, like the thing you notice about like Batman's rogues gallery, they all sort of represent a part of Batman, or like the polar opposite of him. So it becomes more of an ideological battle as well. But with serial killer Handsman, he's just like, yeah, I'm some serial killer man-child, lol.
Yeah, and there are barely any parallels between him and Deku that could be made at this point, unless you really read into things, because, oh yeah, Deku's the prodigy of All Might, well, Shigaraki's the prodigy of All for One, which, why All for One is letting this man-child waste a bunch of resources and time, and potentially dragging even more attention onto himself for no reason, is beyond me, Like,
I think
he
was desperate. I think all for One was desperate for a sidekick or something.
I mean, yeah, but wouldn't Kurogiri fit that bill just as fine? After all, he is loyal to him, and he's a lot smarter than Shigaraki, that's for sure, and yet he does whatever the fuck he tells him. So anyways, after that, Shigaraki, goes away creepily, when Uraraka shows up. Deku asks, he screams and asks, what's All for One's plan? And that, Shiraki's all right. Oh, you'll find out soon, bitch. And he fucks off, and they go to the police station for questioning and shit. After that, Deku meets his mom. They talk a little bit. They cry a little bit, and they say that in time they will need to face All for One, and to put an end to him once and for all. And that's the end of season 2.
Okay, so since the season has ended, so ending thoughts, Kaiser Shounen, you're up.
Oh man, what the fuck can I say about this season? This season, and by basically it's kind of weird, because the purpose of a season is to take all the things that were good or bad about the first one and revamp it into something incredible, and taking on a lot of things that made it good and make them even better. Putting in some new dynamics and plot threads that can make things even more interesting. But this season basically does some of that, and yet none of it at all. Because while staying, let's talk about the tournament arc first. It had like a practically pointless tournament arc. Most of the characters develop in a way that is incredibly unnatural and forced in order to fool the audience, in order to sympathize with them without putting in the work into making them sympathetic or endearing his characters beforehand. You know, it's like buying a 7-Up cake from Dollar Tree and saying that you made it. And it's like, no, that's not how it works. You know, and as a result, it just comes off as incredibly fake when the show wants you to sympathize with these people, but we fucking can't. And it doesn't deserve our sympathy or empathy towards them. We have the same problems, subpar dialogue and interactions, unfunny cringe gags, and expanding on the show's world building a tad bit that ends up somewhat breaking it and making it so that we can't take it serious because the show keeps on saying, that all this stuff is so deep and important and all that shit when it doesn't expand upon them in any meaningful fashion beyond what is superficial. And the examples being Stain and the whole Shinso arc during the tournament is that they bring up some quote unquote injustices in the society of heroes. And the main characters that are put on the forefront of these events barely react to it in a meaningful fashion. Again, beyond superficial stuff like being even more motivated to do what they're already doing, which would be fine if the show treats itself as something simple, but for the most part it doesn't, and that's the issue. And the way it carries itself contradicts the things that it's actually doing, which is incredibly middle of the road. And while the fights are a lot better in this season, I will say the emotional impact that they are supposed to have just come off as obnoxious and wasted. So this season and the show so far is still pulling the same bullshit. And I want to care about these characters. I want to be super excited for these plot threads and stuff. But the show barely deserve it. It's not the worst show ever or anything like that. It's not horrible. But the problem is that it doesn't deserve any of the hype behind it. You're welcome to like this show and watch it all you want. I like, but I wish that but there are some things that could have easily have been handled a hell of a lot better, and they just don't freaking do that, and that's my fucking problem. So overall, this season still gets the same score as the last one, which is a 5 out of 10. And
yeah, like this series is so mediocrely average that it's not funny. I mean, like I said before in the season 1 overview, like this series balances itself so perfectly, like yin and yang, and that's something you should never have in any show. Like it's almost like amazing how it achieves this like middle of the road state. It's almost like it's achieved it to a perfect degree. It's like, what the fuck?
Yeah, like with the big things and the important things that it brings up regarding certain ideologies of the characters and stuff. It's like, oh yeah, like the show is at least not bad because at least it puts in at least enough effort to bring up these issues in the first place rather than it not being there at all. But it doesn't do enough with them. So it's still within this sort of balanced scale, regardless of whatever the fuck it does. There are barely any consequences for the character's actions. And while I can understand a lot of the things that the show does in order to pull it off, I feel like the decisions that it makes it less interesting as a result.
I dread doing season 3, but I think we may take Boku no Hero. We may take a little break off Boku no Hero if I do more of these like overviews or discussion vids for a bit. But basically my ending thoughts are similar to you. Like the show is just such a polarizing experience that it's just really hard to truly appreciate and enjoy it. Like I give it a 5 out of 10 as well. Like it's just so middle of the bloody road. So
it's like when I look at freaking sequels like Full Metal Panic Second Raid, one of the best sequels I've ever seen. It took all the issues like the first season of Full Metal Panic was a 5 out of 10 or a 5 or 6 out of 10. Season 2, it turned into a goddamn 8. That's how good it was. A sequel is supposed to do shit like that, when it's supposed to make things even better. But I just feel like the show just stepped off the 5 out of 10 mark a tad bit, and now it's just it's just running in place. It's not just on a balanced scale, it's just running in place. That's what it's doing.
Okay, so this is Bio Gundam. Thank you for watching, and we will see you next time if we haven't killed ourselves when we do season 3 eventually, but I doubt it.
Maybe. Who can say? I'm Kaiser Shounen, and I'll see you guys around.
All right, bye bye.